Hey, jerks, we're alive. Welcome back. A lot happening this week. Karen Reed back in court. Saw Dr. Russell. We got a lot to catch up on. We got the 3Ms here tonight. Let's just get them right up as soon as we can. Attorney Mark Bederow.
Hey.
Hey. And Mazza Media. What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on?
Geez, I mean, I don't even know where do we start tonight? I'll go to Attorney Bederow first.
Don't throw this on me. Whatever you guys
You know what? Actually, even before we start, I just remembered. I got to make sure I acknowledge our. I don't know if you guys know. I know Mazza knows. I don't know if Bederow knows. We had a poll basically over two shows on best guest of 2024 in the Young Jerks the entire year. And you guys were the top vote getters. Bederow number one, Mazza right behind you. And so you guys are getting awards. We're gonna print up some awards and send them out to you.
Nice.
So that's from the viewers though. That's not from me. That the viewers decided that. So to me, it's a big deal. So congrats on that. And then I want to thank you personally too for both of you guys being on the show.
Thank you.
Over the last year so many times. It's been amazing.
Happy to grift away.
It's helped our grift big time.
That's right. It's all about the grift.
So I guess we'll go back to where do you want to start, Attorney Bederow?
Well, I think obviously people are fascinated with the hearing that occurred earlier this week. So I suppose that seems like the place to start this whole bizarre 12-hour hearing over the course of 2 days regarding whether one of the most qualified doctors you could ever imagine is competent to give an opinion on a few important topics. So that seems to be the logical place to start.
Absolutely. And what did you think about that hearing in itself in terms of calling things a fraud? And
I mean, I thought the whole hearing as a concept was silly in a legal sense. I mean, the doctor is obviously qualified to give the opinion. She, the idea of excluding her testimony for any particular reason was just, there's no basis for that. She already testified once. The reality is, by the prosecutor seeking the hearing, they may very well have inadvertently have qualified her for more than just dog bites, which is something, and I can't remember if it was with you guys or someone else. It might have been with Melanie way back when Russell testified the first time, that I had noted that the way this is going is that they're actually expanding her expertise as just a general ER, someone who can talk about the causation of injuries from all kinds of things. And now you're morphing her from not only into opining about dog bites and scratches, but, offering expert opinion about, in her experience, whether those kinds of injuries are consistent with cars and whatnot. I mean, it's almost like arc a light. It's different. It's a different level of practice and expertise, but it's the same concept. If she gets to the same point, that becomes very troubling for the prosecution. So I don't know why they had the hearing. She's completely qualified. I don't know why a lot of the hearing, or certainly a lot of the cross-examination, was very, bada beep, bada boop about challenging her in more of a classic cross-examination of a witness that had nothing to do with the issues that were present. A lot of factual hypotheses built into questions that certainly were irrelevant to the doctor, and certainly something that there was no reason for her to agree with or not agree with. So, that seemed questionable at times. I thought the whole process was just, in a legal sense, silly. There was no need for it. And it struck me as a colossal waste of time.
What do you think, Mazza?
Well, I'm just shocked that the prosecution didn't ask questions such as, if a dog bites someone and no one is around to see it, did a dog bite actually happen? That is basically the line of questioning I think sometimes that we were listening to. It was like, honestly, it's just they were asking her every question under the sun. And basically it was driven to try to make it seem like Dr. Marie Russell was absolutely unqualified. And that was one of the most poorest things they could have ever tried to do, because she's certainly qualified. Someone had asked me recently, do you really need to be an expert to determine if those are claw marks, dog bites, whatever you want to say? Because it's certainly not taillight, right? It doesn't take an expert to look at that and say, that's definitely not taillight. I don't believe taillight showed that. But what you do need in a court of law, obviously, is someone that's reputable that can determine this. And basically, it's just like anybody that's an ER doctor, right? That constantly sees gunshot wounds, knife wound victims, all that stuff. It's the same thing here. Dr. Buri Russell is exceptionally qualified. Not only that, she's beyond qualified. Her qualifications are through the roof. She's an incredible woman. She's very talented, very educated, and knows what she's talking about. And they tried to do everything they could to debunk her, to make her seem like she's not a reputable witness. But Robert Alisi, the attorney for Karen Reed, said it best, that basically, look, ultimately it's up for the jury to decide if her testimony is valid when weighing her decision. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, it seemed like he was playing, Hank Brennan anyways, was playing to the potential jury. That's a frequent comment from people. Also, to me, it seems like they're trying to waste her money. What do you think about that, Attorney Bederow? I know.
I don't know. It's hard to get into, is he just doing this to waste her money? Maybe. Do I think that that's a primary motive to spend 12 hours in court, yelling at a doctor about whether she's qualified to talk about dog bites? I doubt it. Was it playing to a potential jury pool? Maybe. Was it playing to a certain class of people, witnesses and Twitter fanboys? Maybe. But, the way I look at it is that's not the primary reason they're doing it. The primary reason they're doing it in these motions, which are really, legally speaking, weak. I mean, these are real Hail Mary. They're not done in the proper form with any real evidence, which, as you saw, the defense bring out. And these are all points that, I'd actually mentioned with Kim a week before as it related to Richard Green, but it's the same point about the judge as gatekeeper, the jury as fact finder, and how the prosecution seems to be trying to merge the two and having the judge make a determination that this witness's opinion isn't satisfactory when the only issue at the hearing is whether she's qualified to give an opinion that's an expert opinion that would help the jury. The judge has no place to actually weigh in on the merits. That is a quintessential fact-finding function, which belongs exclusively to the jury. I mean, the judge decides issues of law. An issue of law is whether, under Dauber, whether the witness is qualified, but whether her opinion is, A or B should not matter as long as she has the proper expertise and satisfies the standard to offer it. So I think his primary motive in doing this, even if it, from a lawyer standpoint, it strikes you as, is this serious? Are we really having a Dauber hearing over this? And are we really going to have another one of these over Richard Green? Are we really going to go down this rabbit hole with these kinds of things? Apparently they want to, but I think their real principal reason is that they recognize, Brennan, his colleagues, whoever, that these are issues that from the prosecution standpoint, they have to win going away. They've got to convince 12 out of 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt that what the defense is proffering isn't even possible. Whereas the issue of dog bites, the issue of a 2:27 a.m. search, if you want to call it, with the Richard Green stuff, same idea. Those issues are what I call house money for the defense. They don't need to win them. They don't need to prove them. All they have to do is plant a seed of doubt in the jury's mind that they're possible. This could be the case. Maybe that search was a 2:27. Maybe those injuries on his arm did come from a dog. And if the jury starts thinking like that, then you're already at reasonable doubt. These are speculative things that, if they're in the eyes of the jury reasonable, they blow up the entire premise of the DA's case. Those arm injuries have got to be from an impact with a taillight, right? Has to be, in order for the DA to win. It has to be. It can't be a dog. If it's a dog, they're screwed. The Google search, same thing. if that Google search was made at 2:27 a.m., they're toast. It's over because there's no explanation for that. Whereas from the defense standpoint, if the jury concludes beyond a reasonable doubt that Jennifer Cabe did not make that search until 6 whatever in the morning, then you just go on to the next fact. There's still a lot more for the defense to work with. So I think what you're seeing, it's some form of desperation, a little bit of a Hail Mary. Does it play up to the crowd for them? Maybe. Does it, cost money to come out of Karen Reed's pocketbook? Sure, it does. But beyond that, I think the real reason is they're in trouble.
Absolutely. It seems like those witnesses are so devastating to the prosecution. I mean, that's a good point. What do you think, Mazza?
Yeah, I agree. These witnesses are an absolute threat. The ARCA experts, obviously, Rentschler and Wolf, and obviously Dr. Marie Russell are a huge threat, and they're absolutely going to try to do everything they can. This is dotting your I's and crossing your T's right now for the prosecution, a way of trying to get any exceptional witness off the books for the defense at any means necessary, by any means possible. And overall, the line of questioning throughout the day was excessive by the prosecution, and it was almost belaboring to the point where they were trying to ask her every question known to man to invalidate her. But again, it all comes down to, am I on mute or something? Go ahead, Mark.
No. I had a thought. Finish.
Okay. All right. So they did everything they could. On and on they went, and it was desperation. Mark kind of made this point a few moments ago. They belabored it. They look like a runner in a marathon that was 4 miles from the finish line, trying to catch up with the first place runner by sprinting the last 4 miles after they've already run 22 miles. It's not a look that looks like they're coming from a position of strength. It looks like they're coming from a position of desperation, and they're trying to do everything they can to get this witness off this account. I'll tell you one thing. I don't want to change subjects too much, but just imagine the outrage if Auntie Bev ends up agreeing with the prosecution and ends up booting Dr. Marie Russell out of this case. I will say, I don't see that happening.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen to him. It's not, or her, excuse me. It's not going to happen to Richard Green. It's not going to happen. So the thing that I think is also worth noting, and if you see this for a living, it's not common that the prosecutor in a pretrial setting is the aggressor affirmatively trying to wipe out a defense. Obviously a defendant has a due process right to present a defense. I mean, within reason. Obviously, you can't just throw mud at the wall if there's no logical basis. It's not relevant. If it's otherwise inadmissible and all of that, the rules of evidence apply both ways. But it's not common in a case like this to see the prosecutor say, our theory is, she got hit by, she hit him with a car. There's 40-something pieces of taillight. There's no broken bones, no anything. And that's a very straightforward common sense theory, which most people say that makes no sense, by the way. But when the defense comes up with a theory to challenge that, their first instinct is like, we got to keep this out. Like, we just, for reasons that you shouldn't even be allowed to hear it, because I'm telling you as the prosecutor, and I pinky promise I'm telling the truth, in my opinion, this doesn't work. And that's what he's doing. He's saying, trust me. And that's what Alessi was saying in his closing argument, which is, this is unprecedented. And it is unprecedented to do this. And you're seeing this happen with Richard Green, the same type of thing that's happening where, I'm telling you, in my opinion, my expert is better. So therefore, you shouldn't even listen to this. When obviously, under the same analysis, Green is clearly qualified. Now you see, their next line of attack apparently is going to be, you shouldn't let the ARCA people testify. I mean, in other words, the DA's position is, let's just skip straight to sentencing. Let's, skip the trial and go straight to sentencing. And I haven't seen the ARCA papers yet, the actual legal reasoning. It seems to be like it's going to be some cheesy discovery violation that, through no fault of the defense, they don't have access to all of what ought to be discoverable materials. So naturally, we should just exclude all of the most far and away exculpatory evidence. And this is what I find fascinating about this. And again, I don't get into motives, they have a very worthy adversary, a very experienced adversary, but they also have a guy who is quintessentially a defense attorney. Okay. And nothing offends anyone who is classically trained to think like a defense attorney than a fair trial and the defense right to put on a defense, and more importantly, the right to present favorable and quintessential exculpatory evidence. And for a defense attorney wearing a prosecutor's hat this time to seek to exclude what is the most exculpatory evidence in the case on some kind of, half-fisted discovery technical violation that, is no fault of the defense, they say, but if we can't get materials and these witnesses can't testify, is so offensive to the concept of allowing a defendant fighting for her life, who ironically may very well be tried for murder for the second time, even though she was acquitted, maybe. We'll have to wait and see legally on that. But, all of this stuff about a fair trial, it really feels like the DA's position here is, let's just adjourn this for sentencing.
Absolutely. I want to ask a follow-up on that, because it comes up so much in the comments and people asking me to ask this question to you. They're trying to, the prosecution is trying to exclude these 3 witnesses. What about the defense trying to exclude Trooper Paul? He's got no experience for what he's trying to put up on the stand. Well, is that something they ever do?
I mean, you could. I mean, certainly. I mean, let's be honest. Trooper Paul would be the quintessential witness to fail a Daubert inquiry. He is completely unqualified. He has no methodology. He has nothing. It's not a personal thing. It's, look, we're going to call it like we see it. He is the worst so-called expert witness I've ever seen, bar none, in almost 30 years. I mean, he was that bad as a so-called expert witness. The commenter is right. They're getting to my point. I'm not sure the defense wants to do that, because the reality is this. Why do we even think or know whether the DA is going to call Trooper Paul the second time around? And if they don't, are they going to go with his version? I don't think they can. But if they switch it, then you can be sure that their new expert is going to be confronted with, did you review this guy's work? And the suggestion, of course, to the jury is that the DA is moving the goalposts. They're looking to change theories. Certainly, they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole to make their theory sound better. And so I'm not so sure, if I were the defense, that I'm even just because I can move to exclude him doesn't mean that I should.
Yeah. What do you think, Mazza?
Yeah, I think Trooper Paul is who they want to face. It's like facing a backup quarterback in football. Just hope it's not Milton or Tom Brady in 2000, because, Brady's going to lead you to a Super Bowl. Milton's going to cost you your first pick in the NFL draft. So, yeah, you want to face Trooper Paul because he's horrible. He presents himself horribly. He has no confidence on the stand. He doesn't know how he's talking. He babbles. He has no public speaking skills. He has no knowledge of anything. He's perfect for the defense. So, yeah, leave him on there. We love Trooper Paul in that regard. The less amount of talent that they have out there, or qualified people, which they really don't have any qualified people as far as I'm concerned, the better.
That's the thing with Trooper Paul, though. It's not just he's like mumbling and stumbling and nervous, and he was all of those things. You kind of cringe and you almost feel bad for him. He's not a good witness, but beyond that, he's not qualified to do anything that he was doing. This is on a technical expertise level. He had no business saying anything and being an authority figure on anything that he was purporting to be an authority figure on. So You add that with the mumbling, stumbling, and everything else, and it's just a perfect storm of bad.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. His CV resume is very thin.
So I don't know why, or if they're even going to use him again. I have no idea. I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
If I
it makes sense that they wouldn't, that they would find someone else if they have anybody else. It just. Yeah.
But this is another example too that highlights they've got problems, right? They're stuck with this guy. They have the Proctor problem, right? He'll be terminated almost certainly within a week. The other guys have all been sanctioned on some level from the state police. They've got the inverted video that they've got to deal with again. They've got problem after problem. They're going to have, I mean, they're not going to keep out Dr. Russell. They're not going to keep out Richard Green. They're not going to keep out all this other stuff. This is not something that is probably going to end well for them. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
There's also, you mentioned Proctor, Buchanan, and Tully, the three names. You mentioned one of them, but you referenced the other guys. But their three names came up this week in the Brian Walsh thing. The prosecutor basically stated that they're not going to be brought out as witnesses for the prosecution in the Brian Walsh case. How likely do you think that's going to happen in the Karen Reed thing?
Zero. So let's talk about Brian Walsh for a second. So the guy prosecuting that case, by all accounts, is a highly respected prosecutor in Norfolk County. There are some, okay? I don't know him, but I've heard about him, read about him, and seen enough to know that he seems to be pretty decent, highly respected professional advocate. If the more you read about him, you may have read elsewhere too that he was approached and took a pass on the Karen Reed case, which also may tell you a lot about how he sees things. And then he tries, you have this Brian Walsh case. Brian Walsh is like a public safety issue, okay? He gets due process and all of that too, but the evidence against him is pretty strong, okay? And what he did, he's already a fraud felon. And then what he's alleged to have done here is, as hideous as it gets. But the evidence against him is strong. So you say, although this is a Proctor, Buchanan, Tully type case, I don't need it. And I don't want to turn this into Karen Reed light and invite these issues and have a jury go renegade, go rogue on me because, it's the Proctor factor, and if you will. And so I think it's a smart move in the Walsh case. It's a strong case. He's trying to keep out all this Karen Reed stuff. But in Karen Reed's case, they don't have that liberty. Can they do it without Proctor? Yes. Are they going to do it without him? I don't know. But he will be there. He will be the albatross. And he won't be called Trooper Proctor. He'll be called Michael Proctor because he'll be a terminated, and he doesn't even get the title Trooper anymore. He'll be former, disgraced, that sort of thing. But even if they throw him overboard, the defense is going to mention his name every 2 minutes if they can. They're still going to have to call Buchanan. Buchanan has to answer for the inverted video. Good luck with that, giving these lawyers all that time as opposed to 10 minutes to think about how to do that. He's going to have to explain why he recognized himself and Proctor on the camera when he thought it was fine. And then, when it was obvious what was going on, he no longer could recognize anyone. They can't ignore him. And of course, his partner is going to be Proctor. So they're like peas in a pod. They're finding the taillight together. They're fetching the car together. He reviews Proctor's paperwork. So when Proctor screws the pooch and claims it's a scrivener's error and it was really 5:30, do you blame some of that on Buchanan as a supervisor and partner? Maybe. Things like that. They can't ignore these guys in Karen Reed's trial. In Walsh's trial, they can. I mean, is anybody acquitting Brian Walsh based on everything that the evidence suggests he did?
No.
Because Proctor was involved in the case?
Yeah, no. Well, let's pretend that they don't do what's rational, which what you said. Let's pretend they exclude him. Will the defense definitely call them?
In which case?
In the Karen Reed case. So let's pretend they exclude, like the prosecution decides not to put on Proctor or Buchanan especially. Do you think the defense should automatically just call them?
Automatically, no. That's something that would take a lot of consideration. I mean, obviously the argument for them would be this guy was the lead investigator, did all the dirty work in this case, was literally, from their perspective, the dirty work. And the DA can't even call their lead investigator. If they call Proctor, remember, they're doing a direct examination. They may not. You should not assume that they could automatically cross-examine him as a hostile witness. They may, depending on where things go, but it's a lot easier to cross-examine someone than direct them, even if they don't want to help you. And, you can't just assume that they're necessarily a hostile witness. So would they necessarily call Proctor or make it clear by mentioning his name that you're not hearing from him and emphasize that. I mean, you could, again, this is another one of these house money issues for the defense. I mean, there's any number of ways they can play that.
It's true. Like if the empty seat might, the boogeyman you don't know could be.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have Buchanan, and they're gonna try to tie Proctor again around Buchanan's neck and say that's your guy. I mean, that's your text buddy. You like the text, that's your guy, and you guys like to go out and do everything together and find taillight together and do all that kind of stuff. It's not going to be a good look either way. Now, could they haul him in there? They could, but I don't know.
Before I go to Mazza on this, I want to follow up on something you said about the cross. It's easier to do a cross than, just to lead. I think I get it why, but I don't know if everyone does. Why? Why is it easier to do a cross?
Because you can lead. That's exactly why. You can ask or you can make statements in the form of a question and steer where you're going. It's not open-ended, where in a direct examination, it's an open-ended, it's not meant to suggest an answer, and it can invite long answers. It can, you may get led away from where you want to go, where on cross-examination, you could just jump right in. I mean, I'm not saying this is how they could do it, but if, Proctor testifies on cross or as, a hostile witness or whatnot, and he identifies himself, you could ask him right now, you employed? No. Used to work at the state police, used to be called Trooper Proctor. Are you still Trooper? No. Why not? They call you former Trooper. What happened? You got terminated, and you got terminated because of your conduct in this case, right? Anything to do with calling her a whack job, this and that. I mean, you could just, that's not how you would do it in the start, but you can just drill right in, as opposed to, the stuff that a lot of you guys would make fun of Lally, what if anything, what if anything, the whole purpose of that is to not lead. I mean, it's a totally proper,
open-ended,
correct examination. That doesn't mean you have to beat it to death and ask every single question that way. But there was nothing procedurally wrong with his what if anything questions, for what it's worth.
Who, if anyone?
Yeah, it's open-ended, right? I mean, it leads to more discussion. So what, if anything, do you have to say, Mazza?
I would like to talk about Dr. Marie Russell here in regards to one thing. Yeah, she's a threat because of her level of qualifications here. But here's the thing. It's all about reasonable doubt at the end of the day, right? And looking back at the first trial, it appears that this jury had determined that counts 1 and counts 3, that Karen Reed was not guilty. That's obviously being kicked into the Supreme Court for a ruling, hopefully to come here in the next, hopefully 30 to 45 days tops. But here's the thing. Dr. Marie Russell already establishes enough reasonable doubt to acquit Karen Reed in her determination that the very probability of a dog attack exists. That is regardless of what kind of an attack that is. If you want to say that it was teeth bites or claw marks, regardless, the very fact that a dog bite or a dog claw mark exists or could exist is proof enough to establish enough reasonable doubt. Because when you look at taillight, which is what the prosecution was talking about, they had said, essentially, and this is my rebuttal to this, taillight, if it was inside of somebody's shirt sleeve, it's not going to cause puncture wounds, or more specifically, puncture wounds in the form of a pattern. I just don't see puncture wounds happening. And if they do, they're very surface level. They're extremely vague. And it's not enough to cause that kind of depth, that kind of damage. And it all goes back to the patterns, which again is the probability of a dog attack existing. And this is the biggest threat. I'll say this right now. All they really need is Dr. Marie Russell to get up there and say, it's probable that a dog attack happened here. That's it. That's the whole case right there. You don't need anybody else. I mean, obviously, you want to bring other witnesses. You want to have plenty of witnesses up there and overdo it. But honestly, on a very basic level, Dr. Marie Russell simply saying that there's a probability that this was a dog attack is simply reasonable doubt. And that's it. I'll yield back.
Yeah. It should be enough.
Well, there's a lot of those issues, which is why I think the DA is, this is a legal term, screwed. if the jury, not even if they're probably dog bites, if it's a possibility, if I can't exclude that as a reasonable possibility, that's a much lower standard. That allows you to say probably not, but it could be. Those could be dog bites. That issue alone could theoretically lead to reasonable doubt. But, you marshal evidence the same way, the polycarbonate taillight, you're talking about the patterns and this. No one ever talks about the substance of the taillight and how it could shatter in a 47 pieces at a, relatively speaking, low impact collision with a forearm and land all over the place.
Right,
that's
right. And microscopic pieces.
That's just not going to happen, and he kept calling it glass, and it's not. Was that on purpose? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is somebody's got to testify that this is a special substance that's about, 100 to 200 times the strength of ordinary glass.
Yeah. Seriously, any shop guy, any guy in a warehouse, because they wear those glass. I used to wear them.
Right.
So
right.
like they don't break. You can like run over. We used to have fork trucks. Sometimes they won't break. Like if they break, they're not getting pulverized.
So that's another like potentially game ender issue. The 227 search. If somebody thinks on the jury that is, I can't exclude that, then the DA is cooked, because there could be no explanation, a good explanation for Jennifer McCabe doing that. And that opinion, if Green gives it, whether people think it's scientifically valid or not, with all this arguing over whose program is the right one and all that, but it's not just Green's opinion going against these other two people's opinion, for example. You look at that search in the context of the timeline of everything else going on, and you see, wow, that's right around the same time the butt dials are happening. All this other stuff is happening. McCabe is given 3 different versions of when that statement was made, where it was made. It doesn't match up with the dash cam videos when it ought to be, according to what she's saying. Why is she demanding to see the text messages from the other girl that was in the car with her? Why are they saying she's telling him everything? She's telling him everything and talking about who's doing what. You go on. And so you marshal all that together and you say all they have to do is have a juror say, is it possible that this could be the case? So the DA has to wipe this all out. And, when you see these discussions where people are screaming and yelling at each other online and calling each other names and doing this, I wouldn't argue with, if you want to have a serious argument with somebody, a polite discussion, not even an argument, and they say, she did it. Okay. That's your opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but whether she did it or not has nothing to do with whether she's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the only thing that a trial is designed to address. And if there's going to be these discussions, what you have to talk to somebody who looks at it differently, if you can get through a lot of the attitudes and nastiness, and I assume some of them will have a reasonable conversation, is say, how are you accounting for the things that we're talking about, all of this, and eliminating the possibility that could be, which is what the prosecution will have to do to win 12 out of 12.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think that exists, especially on a professional level, like in terms of, like I look at you were on the show, Brother Counsel. He's been trying to get another lawyer to you can tell he wants to have that kind of discussion, and I don't think he's going to find it. There is nobody on the other side that can have that kind of civil conversation. It seems like I haven't found them.
I don't know. I've never seen anything like this case, the level of discourse. We've talked about this before. It's just, it's bizarre. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why. Frankly, it's really embarrassing for Massachusetts more than anything else, because it really seems like a very childish scene that surrounds this, and it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. It's a criminal case. It's an interesting case. People agree, people disagree. They certainly watch it, have strong opinions, but how it morphs into the attacking and nastiness and whatnot over a disagreement over whether there's guilt or innocence or whether there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt that's pretty rare. You don't see this.
No, you don't. Mazza, you want to jump in on that, or are you good?
Yeah, I had someone attack me recently on X. They said that they thought I was an attorney. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I'm no Mark Bederow when it comes to being an attorney. I mean, usually I work in a different field altogether, but apparently I'm an attorney on X now, which is pretty cool. I'm an unofficial attorney. So maybe I'll be attorney Mazza Media now, going forward on shows perhaps. But yeah, it's just so volatile. It's always been volatile. The people that always astound me the most are actually the people that don't have turtle boy derangement syndrome, that legitimately just think for any apparent reason that Karen Read is guilty. You want to talk about logic? Logic is simply looking at the facts here, which is there's no ring footage in that entire neighborhood. This day and age, how many houses in any given neighborhood in Massachusetts have ring doorbells?
Oh, anyway, 90%.
90% at least.
It's
how many
hot.
houses
Well, it
are at
depends on
34
where.
Fairview?
Yeah.
I drove down that street last summer. I looked at all the houses. It's a close-knit community in terms of how close the houses are to each other. There's many houses there. And it's pretty clear as day that obviously somebody's camera would have picked up something. To this day, what always shocks me the most, actually it doesn't even shock me the most, is the mostly the thing I would come to expect, is that Microdots and Turtle Boy were knocking on doors in that neighborhood. A few houses down, they knocked on a door and they asked the guy, did the police ever come here asking? Canton or State Police, I believe they might have asked, ever come to your house knocking on the door asking, were you ever asked if your camera picked up anything? It never happened. They never asked. There's no footage at all. If you're trying to put someone behind bars, the number one thing to do is to get footage. If you're caught on tape assaulting someone or killing someone, it's basically all she wrote. You did the crime. It's like when Rick Moranis, the actor, got punched in New York City. There was local camera footage from another business or a hotel that picked right up on that. That footage comes up. When that Tesla exploded in Vegas recently, a camera in the area picked that up, and you can see fireworks shooting out of the thing. So security cameras are all over the place, and they can tell you a lot about what had happened by simply just watching the footage. And it's just amazing that no footage of that exists, because quite simply, if Karen Read had done this and had, in fact, run over John O'Keefe the way that they claim she did, then some footage would easily clear that up. And we've all welcomed that footage for a long, long time. And the reason why they've never submitted it isn't because it doesn't exist. It's more likely because it did exist at one point, and now it no longer exists, or it was made never to exist. And it was all done by design, because it would have showed something. It would have shown that Karen Read did not do this. Go ahead, Mark.
Just say, that's true. But even if it's not nefarious, the bottom line is the party with the burden of proof has to answer for this. Okay. Whether it's nefarious, whether it's just one of those things, and again, what they're going to do, I think, more effectively at a retrial is marshal these things that are the overall in the global sense, the investigation.
Yeah,
so,
I would just think of this, Mark. Like when Mazza's saying that, what about the defense going to talk to some of those people and bring them up on the stand and say, hey, did the state, one question, did the police ask you for your ring footage? You know what I mean? Like,
if you could establish, you could do this again any number of ways. You all know cops. I know a lot of cops, obviously, and you ask them that they're trying to solve a crime, as Mazza was saying, on a street. It is investigation 101. It's what they call a canvas in police parlance. They canvass the neighborhood looking for stuff, looking for videos, whether it be cell phones, ring cameras, whatever. And so in this case, if you can even get past the solo cups, the leaf blowers, and all of that, not securing a crime scene, perhaps even more suspicious in all of this, when you find a guy dead in the middle of a front lawn with one sneaker on, not dressed weather appropriately, holding a glass, it might occur that that's kind of weird and not normal. And that one way to attempt to find out what happened would be to canvass the neighborhood, knock on doors, and that canvass would include any number of things. You'd talk to the people. Were you home? What did you see with your own eyes? What did you hear? Do you have a Ring camera? Can we look at it? So they didn't do that, right? They're missing the library camera. How is that possible? That, like, the relevant time period. They are missing the Ring camera, some of the Ring camera at the O'Keefe house, which could be helpful. How did that happen? The car was towed at the wrong time to the wrong or suspicious location in a blizzard. Why? The whole issue in this case is the condition of the taillight at a certain period of time, and they didn't take a photo right away. That's as bad as not canvassing. And I mean, little funny aside, with some of the Twitter lawyering and I guess Twitter police work, actually, there was some Twitter police work the other day where people were actually defending the police procedure by not taking a photograph of the taillight when they arrived in Dighton because there was snow on it, and you don't want to tamper that. And I'm thinking, here's an idea. Why don't you take the pictures so you have them, if for nothing else, for posterity. But here's another thing. Why don't you I don't know, roll the camera beforehand, okay, and videotape somebody brushing off the snow, preserve it. No one's touching anything. Presto, taillight, whatever condition it is. I mean, if that taillight is not shattered, it's over, right? They don't even take a picture. They don't canvass. They don't do things. And, this is all the kind of stuff that fits perfectly into this whole look away buzzword that they use, and they use it very effectively. But I think there's a lot more to add to that. I mean, it's almost like they were investigating by covering their eyes and feeling they were just afraid of what they might find. I don't know if it's look away or just I'm afraid of what I'm going to see because it's going to mess it up. I don't know. It's on purpose. It's not on purpose. But the bottom line is, when you have the burden of proof and the cops work for you and they don't do a fair job, that works against the prosecution, whether it's on purpose or not. That's just tough shit for them.
Right. They have no video footage, and they have no eyewitnesses that witnessed any of that. And those are two big things right there: footage and eyewitnesses. They have neither. And that tells you a lot right there. I mean, technically, I guess they do have witnesses because, if John O'Keefe, as we believe, was murdered inside of that house, then there were a whole host of witnesses in that house. But in terms of the narrative that the prosecution and the Commonwealth are trying to spin, which is a vehicular homicide on outside, just in front of the property, they don't have any footage. They don't have any witnesses. Those are two big things that you typically need to have when you're trying to put someone behind bars. And when you're trying to establish, with the burden of proof on you as the prosecution, you need to have these things most of the time. And if you don't, well, it's a really uphill battle. And then, of course, there's a level of reasonable doubt. Does taillight shatter like that? Does the body pirouette? Where does the head gash come from? Why is how is his arm wounds that way? How did taillight cause this? Is there any other? Because if I look up dog wounds on Google right now, I'm sure I can find some stuff that is comparable to the way his arm looks. If I look up wounds caused by shattered taillight, I don't imagine I'm going to find anything online. Someone can try to Google that and see if there is something out there, but I guess there's really not a lot of footage out there for shattered taillight causing flesh wounds on people's skin. It's just not relevant. And then the level
especially
of puncturing.
at that speed too,
right?
Under 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
People usually don't die at that speed even.
Right.
You're talking about these issues, and you could also add this to the pile of the police investigation, like the whole taillight thing. When they find taillight, allegedly, the way they're describing it at a nighttime search, what real cops would do in that situation is one of two things. They would either say, we need 10 more guys and a whole lot of lights and a whole lot of shovels because we just hit pay dirt and we got a situation here. Or if it's dark, it's late, you would secure the crime scene overnight. And then you would say, we'll be back at dawn and we'll bring 50 guys with 50 shovels and we will obviously find the rest of it. I don't know why this wasn't a bigger issue, that when you're going after the investigation, like that was a big deal. I mean, what real police officer investigating, finding taillight, this supports the case, knowing that the taillight is allegedly missing whatever percentage is missing from the car, from their version, and you find one small piece, which is, 5% of the missing light, wouldn't, I know they're big on logic, right? Logic is everything. Logic tells you that it should be right there. The rest of the taillight should be where I found the other pieces. So they just give up. Then several days later, the chief of police just randomly drives by and just randomly decides, even though he's not involved in the case, to be John Q. Citizen and find more taillight. Once again, logic would tell you at that point, you call over to the cops and say, you got to search again. Like, there's more. No. Then over the course of another couple of weeks, well, we're just going to drive by and randomly see whatever we can find. And day after day after day, they find more taillight. And I'm telling you, if you talk to anyone who understands police work or did police work, they will tell you that this version of events is ludicrous. Okay. And I'm sure in any other trial, if that, even the man prosecuting the case would love to tee this up for cross-examination and not defend this garbage, but go after it. This stuff just doesn't make sense. And whether it's on purpose or whether they're just incompetent to a level that's hard to believe, frankly. The taillight thing to me does not sound incompetent. That sounds a little more nefarious. But, you pile all that with the no ring camera, the no photographs, the no video, all this other stuff. Where are they going?
Absolutely. We got to look at the new attorney and like a kind of an extended look, Robert Alessi. What do you guys think about him? I thought he was phenomenal. I love him. Yeah. I think he's on like Alan Jackson level. What do you think? He's different.
Well, first of all, I like seeing, the Manhattan guy come in and
yeah,
he does. I like to see that. We stick together on that level.
Have you ever met him? Have you ever come across him? No.
I mean, it's funny. His office is like down the street kind of thing. But what does that mean in New York? He is almost like an appellate type attorney. Okay. So he's, very methodical, extraordinarily intelligent, very, very good, mechanically inclined brain in terms of, obviously doing Daubert hearings and science. So I think they brought him in for a just perfect purpose to do this. I mean, is he obviously the jury guy? No, that's Jackson and United. I mean, everyone had, but his handling of this hearing was at an A+ level. I mean, it was outstanding. And in some ways, I'm sure people like him are thinking the same that people like you watching are, which is, why the hell am I here? Why are we doing this? But if you're going to make me do this, then, let's go. And, that's how you get like a 12-hour hearing over something like this. It was ridiculous. But, no, he's very, very accomplished, very, very good, very persuasive, good demeanor. And, so he's a nice addition to balance out that whole group.
A lot of comments saying he's likable too. I feel like he's likable. He's
definitely likable. He's very affable. Again, everyone's wired differently. He's not the screamer. He's not the
flashy. Like Jackson's kind of flashy, I think. Sometimes I think a lot of people like him, but it could turn off some people where it's funny,
Well, so. I mean, listen, one of the complaints, I mean, again, people are always going to complain about everything watching a trial. Some of the people who were critical of the defense in the first trial, they're not going to like Hollywood. Okay. Here comes, Hollywood Jackson, whatever. I mean, to me, that guy's a great lawyer. Let's just call it what
he is. And he's well-rounded. Like the guys that got, like I think he fixed airplanes and shit. Like he's like a real guy. You know what I mean?
The thing that I didn't see coming, I'm not going to say, so this doesn't count. I didn't see it on my bingo card, so it doesn't count. That doesn't count. I think the issue in terms of potential concern of being turned off by a jury is going to be the prosecutor here, which I'm surprised. Usually the prosecutors have to be the guy in the white hat. Usually they're the good guys, usually, whether you agree with the case or not. And that doesn't mean that Hank Brennan's a bad guy or a bad lawyer. He's none of those things as far as I know, but his tone with professional witnesses who are just there to render an opinion is very shocking. Okay. It's not common to be that aggressive with, and the optics too. She's kind of like an elderly, smaller woman who, by the way, has like a degree, in a resume, a CV that's, bigger than anyone's. I mean, she's real doctor, like high level doctor. But I would have thought, and I'm sure all the other lawyers watching found this surprising, about how aggressive and badgering, if you will, argumentative, all the words for somebody like her. And what does that mean when it gets to other witnesses who there is a little more, back and forth, give and take. So I would be concerned that will turn off jurors more than anyone. Now, maybe that's not the case. He is local, so that maybe that helps. The accent won't harm him like it might elsewhere, but I don't think Jackson is going to turn off people because he believes in his client and he's smooth. I mean, most people like that, I think. But
yeah, and you're right too on Brennan. Like, that's the whole thing. He just, in the comments, obviously everyone like really dislikes him. Like just the public response, but you just watch him for a few minutes and it's so true. Matt, what do you think about it?
Well, I like Robert Alessi a lot. He walks into court like he's mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent from the Daily Planet, and then he also can rumble. I've seen his boxing video online. The guy's totally awesome. I love it, and he puts up a fight. There's a sparring video he's got on that Turtleboy posted on his page. He's sitting there throwing punches in the living room or kitchen or something like that.
Sure,
I can see that.
I'm sure
he's a
BA.
He's a BA. He's a badass. Yeah. He's a great guy, and I love his approach. He kind of has an energy to him, like someone that he acted like he was representing his own daughter who was in this situation. I mean, he had that kind of ferocity to him, and I did not see that coming because, again, it's the Clark Kent appearance. It's the glasses. It's the black hair, and you just sit there and say Clark Kent. And you think he's going to be mild-mannered, but this guy was really, really aggressive and ferocious, but all in a correct manner, all in an absolutely perfect manner. He presented himself. He was aggressive to the right limit while being assertive enough at the right limit. And you have to absolutely appreciate that about him. And I loved it. I loved his energy. I loved the way that he was citing certain things that Beverly Cannoni had said herself and kind of said that back to him when establishing his points during his closing arguments. I thought that was well done. Karen Reed got what she paid for. Everybody that's donated money to Karen Reed's defense got what they paid for out of this man, because every time you see a new attorney, you don't really know what their style is going to be, their approach is going to be, how they're going to present that information and their argument. And then when you see him in action, you start to get a feel for him. It's like, wow, this guy is really good. Now, he was great the first time we saw him, but I loved his closing argument so much. It was absolutely fantastic. And just a great attorney. I mean, the guy was awesome. Just the way he gave things back. And to one point, I didn't like the way Beverly Cannoni snapped at him when he yelled objection. I don't know the way objections are usually stated in court outside of this particular case. I don't know, some attorneys are more accustomed to shouting an objection, but I did not appreciate the fact, despite that, of the way that judge addressed him about that, basically mocking him and condescending him and all but laughing at him in the middle of court. She could have more appropriately just said, no need to, your objection is either sustained, overruled, whatever. But you don't need to shout it. We don't have to shout it in this particular court. Some attorneys are from out of state. We have
a term for that when you're out of your jurisdiction, and that can be even in your home state. But you go up, from the glitz of Manhattan to some upstate village court, whatever. What lawyers call that's called being localized. You get localized. There are different ways to get localized.
Right.
You don't follow my rules, and you don't. And yeah, there is a learning curve. I mean, I can tell you firsthand. the way things are done in Massachusetts at these court appearances is, it's like speaking a foreign language.
Parochial, localized. It's like different world.
It is a different world. It takes a lot of adjusting to do it, the way that it has to be done.
You just don't walk into a courtroom in Massachusetts and say the word car, Mark. You got to make sure you pronounce it right.
Car, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What did you say, Mr. Attorney Bederow? Car? What's a car? I'm sorry, Your Honor. Car.
Yeah, don't forget. I'm one of you.
Yeah, he is. He's from Framingham. A lot of people in the chat noted Mazza. Alessi is pro bono, they say. So just when you bring up the money.
Oh, yeah. Good point about that. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a good point. Yep. I forgot about that.
But everything else was perfect.
Yeah. There we go.
All right. We all make a little mistake.
I'll accept the fact check. I won't make that mistake again.
Fact check.
That's right. I forgot about that. He was pro bono.
But I mean, look at the defense team. There's 3 other great attorneys too, and I don't think they would have attracted Alessi without all this fundraising and attention. And so, I mean, what you said is valid as it is too. So
yeah, thank you.
Some other questions. We got a bunch of super chats coming in. Here's one from Mark. Definitely, I want to know, how do these hearings go without any signed affidavits behind them supporting the request for the hearing? Is it normal to grant without affidavits?
No, it's not. You can't get hearings and make argument and keep witnesses who testify from testifying because an attorney for the other side comes in and says, Your Honor, in my opinion, this doesn't make any sense. And I'm telling you, again, it's the pinky promise. Trust me. That's tyrannical. It is. I mean, you can't have a prosecutor come into court and just say, take my word for it. Let's deprive the defense of putting on evidence that may very well lead to a finding of not guilty. I mean, there is a due process right to present a defense as long as you meet the other thresholds for admissibility. And to have all these hearings because a prosecutor is saying, take my word for it. No, that's not normal. It's not how it works. And, that was part of the main argument, as I saw that, they were making in their defense closing, which was another way of saying what I had said earlier before that, which is it's tyrannical. I mean, you can't, that should scare the hell out of you when a prosecutor can come in and just say, trust me, we'll do it the right way, when that's not how due process works. Okay. This is still America, not how we do it.
Yeah. You still have a right to have a defense.
You still have a right. You still have a right to be found guilty by a jury beyond a reasonable doubt before you move to sentencing.
More questions. They want to know, we kind of touched on this, but maybe we want to drill down on it more. I want to thank Edward for the question. Amy's asking, what about him wanting to disqualify ARCA?
So we really got to see the motion itself as opposed to the notice that we're going to do this. But based on the 1 or 2 pages they filed, it seems to be they're going to claim that the defense is not in a position with providing all the materials that ought to be disclosed in conjunction with that, and therefore these witnesses should be excluded. That is as draconian gets. These are exculpatory witnesses. Nothing is more important at a trial than a defendant's right to a fair trial. One of the most quintessential components of a defendant's right to a fair trial is due process, obviously. And a major subcategory of due process is the right to access and use otherwise admissible exculpatory evidence. I mean, what could be more due process in allowing a defendant to introduce evidence that entirely favors them and contradicts the evidence against them? And you're talking about witnesses who were engaged by a third party with no connection to the defense, who basically are going to come in and say that, in our expert opinion, the damage on the car and the damage on John O'Keefe don't mesh. It doesn't work. Now, if there are discovery issues, it ought to be worked out. I mean, even the defense has discovery obligations. If it's something that's not in their possession, but the DA believes they need it, then, you have to go to the federal government. What are they doing here? Is this another tactic to just kind of, probe what's going on with the feds? I don't know. But the idea that a prosecutor with a straight face is going to say you should deprive the defense of admitting exculpatory evidence because they can't comply with discovery, even though it's not their fault from what they're saying. If it's not their fault and you're talking about quintessentially exculpatory evidence, then you need to find a better way to get your discovery than sacrificing Karen Reed's right to a fair trial and to present evidence that will almost certainly help lead to a not guilty verdict. Then too bad for you, because, we didn't get a report from the FBI or whatever it is. That leaves a very poor taste in my mouth.
It makes no sense. Maz, do you want to make a comment on that before we bring up Brian from LTL, who's in the green room right now?
Let's get Brian right on the show, Mike. Let's
right.
bring him on. He's been waiting.
LTL, bro, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Mark,
Yeah.
Mark, and Mike, how are you?
There we
three
go.
M's?
3 M's.
3 M's and 1 B.
Yeah. Thanks for having me up. I appreciate it.
We're glad to have you've had a lot of tooth pain. We're feeling bad for you. You all right?
I've been a mess. I had a root canal the other day, and I got to go for root canal tomorrow morning too. So, two root canals in 3 days. Good stuff. Good way to start off 2025.
It will get better from here.
It only gets better from here. Just exhausting that insurance bank out.
Are you broadcasting from?
Oh, did I lose him? Wait,
what's
you
that?
back?
Is he broadcasting from like the spa? Look at that back.
No, he's got a beautiful studio.
LTL Studios.
He's got to
LTL
help us
Studios.
out. I got to get a background like that.
Hey, you're all welcome anytime. You're welcome in. So.
Awesome. You have a show tonight too. I think at 8:20. I think it is.
Yeah, 8:15. I'm just going to go over pretty much the hearing from the day. I want to go over the Nick Rocco and Plevin appearance. That was hilarious when Nick Rocco actually called Kevin Plevin on air. So we'll go over that.
Court TV.
He didn't even bat an eye when that happened because we have him so trained to accept his nickname as Plevin
It's
that he's
so
just sitting there
good.
the whole time like this.
It's so good. Hey, I get a question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
When did that happen?
Just the
last
other night.
Yeah, last night. Yeah. I get a question. Did you guys talk about Trooper Proctor? I'm sorry, I'm jumping in late.
A little bit.
Okay. Yeah,
I mean,
I
we
was just
talked
wondering-
about him possibly not being part of the Brian Walsh trial.
Yeah, and I'm just curious now with this. You have the discipline hearing coming up on the 15th. How does that affect the Commonwealth? What I was wondering what everybody's take was on that, especially Mark. What is the implications now of this? Will they bring Proctor in, or are they just the Commonwealth going to expel him out?
That's a tough call. I mean, they're kind of screwed if they do and screwed if they don't. One thing that'll be, he will not be testifying as Trooper Proctor. If he testifies, he'll be testifying as disgraced former trooper or Michael Proctor, which is part of the problem. So, if they don't call him, they run the risk of the defense either calling him or pointing out, how do you not call the lead investigator? If they do call him, I mean, look at him. He's just poison to this case. Yeah. The worst part for him is just, is he like a metastasizing cancer to their case? Everything he touches, everywhere he spreads, where his tentacles go, make the case sound worse and worse. And that's what you're seeing in Brian Walsh. It's so bad that they're wiping them all out. They want them all gone from that. Not even just him. So, and we talked about this earlier, but they can't wipe out the other guys from Karen Reed's case. So I don't know what they're going to do. My gut is they're probably going to call him. The way these people operate, I wouldn't be surprised. But I wouldn't be surprised they didn't either. The real question is whether the defense would.
Yeah. And could you see a scenario? I know this is crazy to say it, but do we see a scenario like in the O.J. Simpson trial with Furman where he gets up and pleads the fifth? Do we see any of that?
Well, the problem he has is he's already testified to this.
But it's a new trial. Come on, Mark. It's a new trial,
Good
the argument The argument, but the argument is he's already waived, he's already incriminated himself.
Yeah.
I mean, if he claims if I answer the question about giving the text messages on the grounds I might incriminate himself, well, what the hell was he doing? I mean, look, I'm the one who, before the first trial, said, if I'm this guy's lawyer, he's not testifying. I'm just like, we're out of here. You guys do whatever you need to do. Have a nice life, have a nice trial, but he's not going to testify. But he did, and he answered all the questions. So I'm hard pressed to see how now, if he says, if his testimony were to be identical to the first trial, the only difference is now I'm asserting my Fifth Amendment right. He's already incriminated himself. He's already done it. He's already waived it.
Yeah. It's crazy. Just curious to see. And I love how Brennan now says, "Oh, we have the dog bite impressions." Well, if you have them now, why didn't you use them before?
Yeah,
Right.
Let's talk about that, because like, will that even be submittable? Like, will that actually? What do you, Bederow? I mean, you gotta think that this might not be. Tell us why.
You have a number of issues here. First of all, as a general thing, bite marks evidence has become less reliable or less accepted as opposed to more over the years. A lot of sciences and things, they trend towards admissibility. This kind of stuff is going the other way. Like it's trending towards junk science. The idea that dental imprints on something have to come from this mouth. That's problem number one. The other thing is, so you have potential bite marks from January of 2022, and you have a dog that was discovered apparently sometime in 2024 or whatever it is. That's a lot of time in dog years, as you know. And I mean, obviously, Mike, you're a dog guy, obviously. Their teeth change. They move, they get filed down, any number of things. It can be totally different. And so much has changed. It's not like there was an investigation and we think these might be dog bites, and 2 days later, that's the dog. You take an impression. At least that would be more comparable. So you don't even know. The other issue for some, I don't really have an opinion on this yet, but is this concept of, how do you know it's the same dog? I mean,
right.
I'm not accusing them of doing anything, but you'd have to establish that. And
how can they establish that? I mean, unless the dog's microchipped, I don't know.
Chip would be the easy way. You'd also want to look at the veterinarian records over the years to see if there were any instances with the teeth or whatever, or other things,
surgeries,
surgery, biting.
We're taking our dog in 2 weeks. I guarantee you, he's going to have a ton of teeth pulled out because we're doing a tooth thing, tooth cleaning, and his teeth are going to be totally different because most dogs don't get that until they get to a certain age, and then you start doing that.
The idea that they're going to introduce testimony of, we took an impression of this dog and it doesn't match up with this, I would say is very low.
Do you think so? You think it's low that Bev will allow it in, but she could, because she's
not the Bev. It's her court.
I have a feeling she might let it in.
I mean, there's look,
she's above the law, right?
Yeah, look, I'm not. There's still a constitution, even in Norfolk County. It doesn't feel like it. I know, but it's still, last I checked, it still applies. But no, I don't think it's too afar. It's too out there. The trial is starting in 3 months. Have they disclosed this to the defense? I don't even know. I mean, are they going to now ask for another one of these hearings to determine this? You can be sure they would. If there's an opinion that it's not that dog, they would almost certainly want to keep it out as junk science. I don't think so. I think that was for show to try to, dirty up or shake up, not dirty up, shake up Russell and see if she would give any ground. And I mean, anyone who does this for a living, either as a lawyer or medical, would be prepared to say that doesn't do shit for me unless I know it's the same dog, same teeth, no changes. And even then, I thought that was kind of a dud. That was not the, aha, bombshell that I think it was probably designed to be.
Kind of a bluff. Speaking of, I mean, we got the super chat that says, do you think, because it's kind of related, do you think Dev shows bias against the defense and Karen Reed? I'll go with Attorney Bederow first, and then we'll go to Mazza and then LTL.
So here it comes with the, like, you're too gutless to give, you know, the real answer you want to say. What I would say is this: almost every judge, not all, but almost every judge is on some level shades prosecution. That's just the way of the world. Okay. Does she appear to shade prosecution? Sure. Do other judges shade prosecution that I've seen? Absolutely. All over the place, wherever I've been. I think that's kind of the nature of the beast. Do I think she seems to have less patience for the defense? Yes.
Beyond what is normal for any other judge that is unfavorable to the defense? So do you think she goes overboard comparatively to other judges that you've seen in terms of her treatment of the defense?
Look at that. You're gonna like, you're gonna stick you're gonna stick, the thumb screw under the fingernail.
Yeah.
Look.
Sorry.
No.
I love it. Go.
We've been doing this for you. You're never gonna. I don't.
This is always for me and you, kind of.
Yeah.
I think it bothered me that, for example, they granted these hearings without a stated reason why, or without saying procedurally, your motion papers are inadequate. Yeah, I think that bothers me. But do I think that other judges would do that? Yeah. So the problem with the Karen Reed case is you're judging the judge on a scale of relativity 1-to-1. She's the only judge we've ever seen. You can't even compare it to how anyone else would handle it, because it's been her show from day one. And I know there was a period of time people thought, oh, not anymore. And then she somehow wrote herself back into it or whatever. That was odd. I'll give you that one. That was a little odd. But, until you see how other judges would handle it, it is kind of impossible.
It's amazing how miserable she was all day in court. She was always miserable during the trial, don't get me wrong, as well. But she could have, if she doesn't like sitting through this trial, she could have made sure at the first trial ended in the correct manner, at least to some degree, at least to maybe 66.6666666% of the way. That way, we don't have to all come back, and maybe it's a second, count two or whatever. But she put us through this. She put everybody through this with the way she conducted herself and not properly polling the jury and having controversial verdict slips. And that's why everyone's always saying she's biased Bev, as we know, because it just seems like, of all cases, considering the level of cover-up and framing that's gone on in this particular case, that it would figure that this particular trial, the first trial I'm focusing on here, would end in controversial fashion. Of course it would. It's what makes me really sick. And that's what I've always had an unfavorability towards her, because I don't find her sincere. I don't think she's an honest judge. And even though it could be argued that maybe that's the way judges are, and I do respect that argument based on your experience, Mark, of course, I just see this woman as biased, and to a point, I feel like she's just basically trying to steer this case, the first trial, I should say, in a direction that is inconclusive and keep this thing prolonged, which is favorable towards Michael Morrissey's office, that are trying to kick this can down the road, because the last thing they want is for Karen Reed to walk out of that courtroom not guilty on all three counts. And then guess what? Look at Aiden. What happened to Aiden? His restraining order got lifted, and all of a sudden, bam, here he goes. Now he's going to start filing defamation left and right. Once you start to break from those shackles of accusation and all that, then all of a sudden you're driving down the highway at 88 miles per hour, about to fast forward into the future and knock them down with lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And that's what Karen Reed's going to do. The day she's no longer guilty of all this, she's coming after every single one of them. And it's basically, it's all out. It's an all-out attack now on the offensive side, because right now we've seen Aiden play defense for how long? Now all of a sudden, for the first time ever yesterday, we've seen him go on the legal offense. It's always been offense, but in a defensive manner. Now it's offense in an offensive manner now he's conducting himself. You know about that. We all know about that.
I'm so happy about that. That's civil
Take a
suit.
pass on talking about that.
Yeah, you're good. We're not gonna
we're
we're
not
not
gonna
gonna ask you
bring
to
Mark in
comment
on
or
that.
elaborate on that, Mark. You're good. We got you. You're all set.
Let's go to LTL now, because it's funny because I feel like I've gone back and forth on this Bev thing, the bias, swayed by Bederow and legal people in my family. But just watching it, like, I think I'm going towards Mazza. I go back and forth whether Bev is truly biased. But I think Bederow makes a good point. A lot of judges are like this.
Yeah,
they just go with the prosecution. So what do you think, LTL?
I think she's I think she's completely biased. I mean, look at one of the previous hearings when she asked Jackson about taking a red-eye flight. I mean, you know, she's always poking at him.
That was regret. That was not a good look.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, that's just terrible. And then you just go back to the first trial. I mean, for me, literally the sincere disappointment in her voice when she's sitting there and saying, this has been declared a mistrial. She was pissed. She was pissed. Like, in my mind, I mean, look, I can say it. I'm just a YouTuber. I'm not a lawyer or anything. I mean, just casual, an observer. And I can just say that she just wants Karen Reed to go down and burn for this. And then, going back to even Mark Bederow's point, talking about how, she wasn't off the case, but now she's back on it. It's a little odd, and it's odd that she wants to put herself back in this position. And even just going back to even the first trial, a lot of the leading that I felt that she was really like kind of leading Lally along. Any questions? Any objections, Mr. Lally?
Would you like fries with that, Mr. Lally?
Yeah, like is she pushing a button under the table? And it's like when they used to cheat in the poker rooms back in the day, they had the device on their leg and they're pushing the device. Like, what's going on here?
In casino, that cost the guy his hand.
That's right. It did. Yeah. Oh, that's for sure.
Take your winnings or get the hammer.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right.
So, I mean, to me, it's just biased Bev all the way. I don't think you're going to be able to swing me in that one, Mark. She's pretty biased.
I get it. It's a sample size of one, and it's to not see how other judges are. You only know what you see, and I just tell you from experience, this happens all the time, and the lawyers, they just deal with it. I mean, you might mutter under your breath here and there, but they're all professionals. They know what they're dealing with, and they know the rules of the game. They know the court they're in, and you just deal with it. I mean, they're not going to sit there and say we can't win or we're not going to get this because it's this judge. You have to control what you can and let go what you can't.
Mark, I want to ask you a question really quick, and just going back to Hank Brennan and kind of his theatrics. Like, what was it, 2 hearings ago, the first, when they had Dr. Russell out for the first time, and he threw the book on the table, like that whole thing. I felt like I was literally watching a movie. I'm like, oh my God. Like, do you think we see more of this during the trial? Is he going to pull this in front of the jury, or is this just right now, knowing these are hearings?
Look, people have different styles. I mean, he's kind of a street guy. I mean, I think that's kind of his shtick. It's, bada beep, bada boop a little bit. Theatrics, whatever. I get it. That may play. Talking to a professional witness like that, though, I don't know if you were here when we had this discussion. That was surprising. I think the tone with a doctor who's just there to have an intellectual discussion and throwing a book that turned out to be, a book of nothing really, and nothing important to even cross-examine her on. That, I thought that was pointless.
Yeah. They're just pushing
Go
hard
ahead.
to keep this dog bite because it holds water. It totally holds water.
Well, the problem they have is it just has to be plausible. If it's remotely plausible, they're not. And they've got several issues like that are house money issues for the defense that are must-have, overwhelming for the DA, and I think that's ultimately why they just can't win. There's just too many. They're trying to plug too many holes, and the dam is going to spreak leaks all over the place until it just, comes gushing through.
Yeah.
Got some super chat question. John Barron's talking about Russell. He says that the hearing really wasn't about the qualifications, but whether the science is reliable and widely accepted. I think that was actually the best part for Brennan, actually. But he goes on. The question is, would Mark allow a bite mark analysis expert to testify against his client without a hearing?
Well, no. I mean, if you want to argue, you think it's potentially not admissible or junk science, you know, you do your due diligence. You certainly make the argument, but you still have to do it the right way. You still have to file a motion that's credible. You have to have some argument other than a pinky promise from a prosecutor that this just doesn't hold water or make any sense. You could potentially get into her qualifications. The problem is she's qualified. I mean, the problem with this whole concept is a lot of times there's evidence that's admissible against you and you don't like it. Okay. This is a woman who is, you know, spent all these years in the ER. Okay. She literally wrote the book, okay, about dog bites and whatnot. She's clearly qualified. If anyone is qualified, you just kind of don't. And that's like an ouch objection. But the risk is and we talked about this earlier too, when they make the argument, okay, when they make the argument against her, what did the defense do? Well, I mean, obviously you have to get the ruling from the judge, but they have in essence made a very credible argument that she's also qualified just to be an ER treatment, talk about causes of injuries being consistent with certain types of trauma. And when you walk into a trap where, you know, she says, you know, it's a trap, right? The Admiral Akbar thing, it's a trap. She's treated hundreds of car accident victims, pedestrians getting hit by cars. And now you're walking into her saying, you know what? That doesn't look like getting hit by a car because I would expect to see fractures in this. And now you may have gotten more than you bargained for. You may be getting her opinion on dog bites, and you may be getting her to be witness number 6 or 5 who says this doesn't make sense with the car and the impact. So,
Backing up ARCA. Yeah.
They may have own gold this by, you know, opposing this. They may have actually expanded her horizon.
We got a lot of super chats coming in. I want to thank this one. But we did answer it earlier. So thank you so much. But here's one. Guys, I thought I got bitten by a dog. I have no idea what's going on this. I must have missed it. So I'm hoping someone can answer it here. But it turns out they were freckles. I'm just Irish. Can someone make the Irish question make sense? Did you guys hear that? What is that about? What is it?
Yeah, I think the implication was that, you know, because John O'Keefe is Irish and he must be freckly, that some of those cuts or blood spots or whatever in reality were just probably freckles. Honestly, I got nothing on that. That
was Brennan. Who said that? Brennan?
Yeah, that was Brennan.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that did not land well either.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it on Twitter. Everyone's posting their Irish freckles, so that's why I knew something was about it. I just didn't know what it was. So that's, yeah. When people are memeing you after, you know it didn't go well for you.
Yeah, no, that was odd.
Yeah. All right. I know I got more questions in here. I just want to make sure of something good.
I got a comment actually that Turtle Boy Aiden Carney and Jennifer Coffendaffer are both going to be rooting for the same football team in the Orange Bowl.
Oh, the Irish.
Yeah, they're both rooting for Notre Dame. So I think that's the first time they'll ever agree on anything.
And he just did tell her she needs to retract her statements, apologize on Twitter and YouTube, or he's giving her 5 p.m. What is it? Friday. Yeah, Friday deadline.
5 p.m.
Yeah, 5 p.m. Which I don't think she's too stupid to.
She's not going to do it.
No, she's not.
I just want to go back and make a comment about when Hank Brennan was, you know, going at Dr. Russell, and she said, you know, kept saying, "Tell me the facts that John O'Keefe was bitten by Chloe," and then, you know, it's like you just literally turn around and say, "Well, all right, Hank, well, tell us the facts that how you say that John was hit by Karen's Lexus." I mean, it doesn't add up. Like, I literally was on the highway the other day. I saw a 570 Lexus driving, and I'm just staring at the back of that the SUV and the taillight, and I'm like, there's just no way that could ever happen. Like, I went through auto body school in high school. I went to a trade school, and I ended up actually taking auto body for 4 years. So it was around taillights and back ends of cars and you know, headlights and plastic that's on cars. I mean, people, their cars are built like tanks now. You know, those driving down the road, especially those, luxury SUVs, they're built so well. And I just sit here and I go, there's just no way. Like, I literally could probably take a sledgehammer, hold it up as high as this, and hit that tail light,
right.
and it would just crack. It wouldn't
Right.
shatter into a million
Yeah,
pieces.
wouldn't pulverize.
Yeah.
Brian, do you remember when you took that picture of yourself next to a Lexus
Yeah.
and you kind of compared it? It looked like that thing. I mean, the thing looked like a tank. It looked like if it hit you, it just would have knocked you back or something. It wouldn't have ended up, shattering into thousands of pieces and, looking like shark. You got attacked by a shark out of water. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's just, their whole argument's ridiculous.
Find the photo. Hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's see. I know I have it, but if you guys want to go, I'll find it. And
I'll ask Mark this question. A question came in. Mark, what do you think the chances are the Commonwealth drop this before April 17th?
0 at this point. 0. They are. I mean, look, before the first trial, with all things going on, the whole federal thing. This point, they are so dug in. There's no turning back. I mean, I don't see it. Unless there is a bombshell of bombshells, a nuclear bomb that is dropped as relates to some big federal thing, which I'm not suggesting there will be. I'm not, but I think it would take something like that to stop this. Now, at this point, I think it's full steam ahead.
Another question for Bederow. What do you think about Bev saying, don't say the reason for the objections, and yelled at Alessi?
Well, I mean, the way this question is framed, yeah, that would be bias. I mean, if you criticize one party for doing something and the other party does the exact same thing and you don't, I mean, by definition, that's exhibiting some degree of bias. It's called getting localized, as I said. You don't know all the procedural rules, and you're getting a hands-on lecture in how it works. I mean, it happens. I mean, I don't think that is not the biggest deal in the world. There's no jury there. I would be much more concerned if there was a disproportionate treatment of lawyers in front of a jury. That would be very troublesome. I mean, you can't obviously give a jury the impression that you're favoring or you like one side better. That would be very troubling.
Britt Happens asks, has Hank opened the door for the FBI being known to the jury?
No, because nothing's happened in front of the jury. So they can talk all they want at a hearing. They don't have to hide the word FBI. They don't have to, there's no jury. So they can, nothing is, a pretrial hearing is not opening the door to evidence. I mean, the whole purpose of opening the door is, at a trial, if there are things that the jury is not supposed to hear or evidence that's not supposed to be addressed, and, one party gets it out there, then the other side is allowed to play with it too, right?
Absolutely.
I found that photo. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, this is next to the same make and model year of Karen Reed's vehicle. I mean, just look at this and I say, there's no way.
The lower part, Mike, can you scroll? Yeah, right there. The lower part of that vehicle extends out by a few inches, which means that you look at Brian's thighs and knees area, he's going to get hit right in the legs and get bumped off to the side.
Yeah,
he's never going to get.
It seems like he'd have to jump up and lean into it to hit it. You know what I mean?
Or if he was
you'd have to jump up
against it, it would hit his hamstring and knock him flat to the ground, and then his face or nose would have been maybe broken. But that's not the case here. The back of it's just nothing makes sense when you look at everything exactly how it is in reality. It does not make sense. It only further proves how ridiculous the Commonwealth and prosecution's theory.
Yeah, is. And I'm 6 foot, and John was what, 6'2"?
Yep.
So he has a couple inches on me, which actually would. Like, my arm is kind of lined up with the taillight. If he's 6'2", his arm actually would be higher up on the vehicle if he was standing next to it. It wouldn't even be near the taillights.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
And we're talking about the forearm, too. And in your particular case, your elbow is right alongside the very base of the bottom of that particular taillight. Yep. Even a 2-inch difference is not going to be sufficient enough. I mean, he would absolutely had to have extended his arm outright.
Yeah, and this is the area right here that Mark's talking about.
This
jutting
out.
Ends
that
out.
Area juts
it's
out.
like a good 2 inches easily. Yeah. That would hit you first.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if when I'm walking dogs, the dogs always like to sniff around cars. I don't know why. They always try to go under.
Yep.
That would be the area I would trip over. I wouldn't trip over the taillight. Do you know what I mean? When the dog's pulling you in.
Yep.
It's just funny. I mean, I try not to let them because, obviously you hope the car is parked. So let's get rid of this.
Yeah.
There we go. We're back. We got, I hate missing super chats because we have so many of them. Trying to catch up. There's like 37 of them. So don't get mad at us if we don't get to all your super chats. Do you
There's
guys
no super chat song on this channel as well? So we don't have it. Unlike the Glare, he's got that famous song. There's no famous song here.
Yeah, we don't do that song.
You just read them.
Yeah.
Here's one. We'll read this one. Dr. R didn't give weight to dog teeth impressions.
Dr. R didn't give weight to dog teeth. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's accepted at this point, but more than that, there's a time period that's passed. You don't know if the teeth are the same. You don't even know if it's the same dog. I mean, I'm taking your word for it, right? That's how this works. You're telling me, so therefore it is, but you're not telling me whether the dog had teeth pulled, whether he's missing or cut or this. I mean, it's a red herring. It's a nothing. It adds nothing to the exercise other than to see, who knows if the doctor kind of tripped over it, then I guess he would have scored points. But a trained medical professional would be the first one to tell you, like, I can't just assume that. I mean, it's 3 years later with that dog, and the dog is by now, not the youngest dog in the world. Or I don't know how old the dog was back then, but you know how it is.
They age quickly, and if that dog's 10 years or older, it's very likely they might have got some dental work done. I mean, that's when you take your dog in. Yeah.
Or you think just chewing on bones all those years it would change their teeth, right?
Totally.
Right, chewing on a bone or a toy or
chewing on people, apparently.
Right.
That dog likes to chew, apparently. Yeah.
I mean, they're talking about this dog in court this past week, and it's like all I'm getting is a thought in my head of Meet the Parents when Ben Stiller is responsible for Jinxie disappearing, and he goes out and gets the fake cat, paints its tail, and brings it in, and Robert De Niro was not buying it at all. It's like, there he is, Mr. Jinxie. It's like, no, it's not. That's not Chloe. That ain't Chloe. That's another dog.
Comes into the courtroom, some water spills on the dog's back,
exactly.
all the paint falls off.
Yeah, right. It's a fake. It's a fake.
That'd be great.
We're getting the movies in tonight. We're getting
the movies in without bail, Mike.
Yeah. We should count. We should do a count. How many
we need
movies
a count
in tonight? I think at least 2. I've counted. I'm sure there's more.
What was the first one?
Back to the Future.
Oh, Back to the Future.
Make the Admiral Akbar reference.
Yes, you did.
That's 3.
Yeah,
I think there was another one too.
Someone said they bring in a yellow lab and they paint it black like Chloe.
Imagine if it's a different dog. That would be funny. They got a bulldog in there.
Walk in the door.
They use the AI painting system to color coordinate the dog's fur pattern exactly. Yeah. This dog smells like paint.
That's great.
Here's a question for you all. What should they look for during jury selection?
Oof.
Well, the first answer is obviously good jurors, right? But if a guy taught me a long time ago when I started out in the Manhattan DA's office, an expert trial lawyer, that said, from a prosecutor standpoint, although it really applies for both sides, that there are two things that you have to do during jury selection, right? Brainwash and get rid of the kooks. That and everything else flows from there. So it's, you want to be real careful to fall in love with judging people based on employment. I mean, obviously you cannot judge based on race, gender. That's literally unconstitutional. And they have what are called Batson challenges, and it's unethical. Putting all that stuff aside, I would be real careful to say, I want, a teacher. I don't want a teacher. I want a cop or this. It really depends. A lot of it. I mean, for me, it's by feel too. How are you connecting? Are they open? Are they listening? But, I would want to keep it simple generally. I mean, I think you're looking for people who may have trust issues with law enforcement on some level, whatever that means, whether they've been wrongfully accused or just whether they just have views that I don't literally just accept what the police tell me, because there's a lot of that, in this case. If you are being somewhat judgmental, you're saying, well, who's inclined to like, Karen Reed, men or women? Probably men, to be honest with you. I'm being judgmental, but my suspicion would be that women would be more just generally critical of her than men. You could go on and on. The whole jury selection is like a topic. You should do a whole show on it one day when the trial comes up.
That's interesting, because I don't know about this, but I would think women would, like, I could see some of them being catty, but I could see a lot of women feeling like here's this male law enforcement DA system going against poor Karen Reed. I just, it's interesting you say men.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah. What about the kooks? How do you get rid of kooks? Because that's a good point. Like, how do you identify and know who the kooks are right away?
Again, it's all feel, and one person's kook may be another's brilliant juror. You never know. You try to get them struck for cause if you can, right? And then if you can't do that, you have a series of peremptory challenges. You want to use them sparingly, but if you have someone that just isn't right for whatever reason, again, not race, color, creed, that kind of thing, but just strikes you as wrong, or just kind of, like, for example, and I'm not saying any juror is a kook or not, but there was some degree of publishing after the first trial that one of the jurors thought that someone who I'm not going to name hired ARCA, right? That's kooky. I don't know who the juror was, and they may very well have been a good juror. They may very well have been an acquitting juror. I don't know. I don't care. But that's kind of odd, don't you think? Like, how would that even cross your mind? So it's not a perfect science. It's a lot of feel. It's a very underrated part of a trial. And in this case, you're going to be dealing with a situation where every single person called for jury duty is going to know about the case and have an opinion. So this is going to be real difficult jury selection. And you're in a county that it's not small, but it's also not LA County, New York County, or some of these other, Dade County, just huge county. Norfolk is, a decent sized suburban county, and everyone in the world who lives there knows and has a strong opinion.
Mazza, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, there's a way to identify a kook in a courtroom. If you have someone that has a laptop and the lights on, that typically might be an indicator that a person is a kook.
If they're typing so loudly it ruins the audio.
It's like Kermit the Frog, mate. Yeah.
If they got stickers all over the laptop on the back, like 100 of them.
Excuse me, sir, your light's on. Don't shake your head at me. Get out of here.
But that is the toughest thing. Now that everybody in Massachusetts knows about this case now. It's like, how do you find jurors that haven't heard of this?
But you have to even narrow it down to just Norfolk. So it's, what is it, 400,000 people. Yeah. And it's not just this case. Everybody knows that this is the same DA's office who just made a complete mockery and mess out of the Sandra Birchmore thing. All the other scandals and controversies that are going on with the Norfolk DA's office, the state police that come out of that office. So, this is a huge disadvantage for the DA. They would be the party, ironically, that would want a change of venue, but they can't get one. They're the prosecutor. Everyone knows that, other than certain ex-FBI agents, and how that works. But that's going to be real tough for the prosecution.
There's another question here, too. What remedies are available for the defense to exclude Brennan's improper questions for the trial?
Objections, and hopefully an unbiased judge who sustains properly, right?
There we go.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
the
that's,
issue, isn't it?
they have these things called motions in limine where you parties can move before trial to get a pre-ruling on the admission or exclusion of evidence. But it's, I don't think that's literally what this question means. But I mean, there comes a point where you just, you have to object and protect the record as you see fit and try to keep out improper questions and improper answers and whatever it is. But you just have to stay on your toes. And I mean, if he does it again and again, at some point a judge is going to say, "What are you doing? Stop it." I mean, that's just human nature by judges. If somebody's improperly asking question after question. Remember, what if anything was not improper? It was just annoying. Big difference.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah.
And that's from Kristen from Manhattan. Special place here.
It's cold. Oof.
It is
cold.
very cold. Anywhere in the Northeast right now. Oh my God. Are you taking out your dog? Who takes out the dogs, Mark?
I'm the dog guy mostly.
You're the dog. Of course you
Oh,
are.
boy.
So you and I will be going out there in the wind and the cold.
Oh,
Now it's the wind has been brutal. The other day, it was just vicious. We had like polar vortex or whatever they call it. It was, oof. Yeah.
Terrible. I got 3 layers still on. I'm still,
wow.
I got insulated pants with long johns on underneath because, walking dogs, you got to be warm. Will the jury know he's a special prosecutor? Will they make the conspiracy stronger? Will they know? How does that work?
I mean, well, again, they're not going to be told, but will they know? I mean, it's all over the news. Everyone watches this. They probably do know. It's not the kind of thing that would be emphasized. That wouldn't be proper to say, this guy is not a real DA. He's from the island of the misfit toys. And because Morrissey has no one in his office who is either capable or willing to try this, we had to go use your tax money, ladies and gentlemen, to bring him in. I mean, they're not going to tell the jury that. So no, as far as the jury's concerned, he's the prosecutor and he's no different than anyone else. And it wouldn't be proper to label him differently. I mean, whether you agree with it or not as to why he's doing it, I mean, it is his job and he's entitled to do it.
Yeah. Just defends mobsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whitey.
Hank Mobster Brennan.
He comes off like that too. It's a question about
100%, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Master of Criminology says, how about Alessi's comments about the cases from his firm? Do you guys catch what they're saying there? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was citing a case in describing what it was, and it was a Piper case. So he just, that's fine. That's part of skilled advocacy. Throw that in there subtly, but not so subtly. That was nice.
I'm just looking.
I like Elise. I think he matches up against Brennan really well.
He does.
Like that back and forth was great.
Yeah.
The other day, and those closing arguments. I mean, I think they picked up a really good match. I think Elise is going to give, as he should, Brennan, his run for the money. I think he's going to be really, really good in this trial. If we get to a trial, which it's looking like we are, but I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I think this is going to be more fascinating than the first time. 2.0 is going to be really incredible. Something
the bigger, badder sequel.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a question I intended to ask earlier. I love that they thought of it. What's everyone's thought about Levy leaving? We'll go with the attorney first.
Duh. I mean, this is how it works. U.S. attorneys are political appointments, whether people like it or not. And it is entirely customary that when there is a change in administration, and in particular a change in party, a philosophical difference, that the U.S. attorney will offer a resignation, and only in the rarest of rare circumstances would the U.S. attorney stay on. And they don't stay on for one particular case like this. They're just looking into some corruption. U.S. attorneys look into corruption all the time. There was never any chance that Levy was going to remain in a Trump administration. It doesn't mean there's a personal reason. It's just because one has a D next to his name and the other has an R, and that's the way it works. So it means literally nothing to me. And to those who get worried, U.S. attorneys' offices, the good ones anyway, they're making the sausage every day, no matter what. It doesn't just stop. I don't know what they're doing or not doing as it relates to any of this Karen Reed or Canton stuff, but it doesn't stop just because the U.S. attorney leaves. And if people are worried about it, you could make the argument, who's going to want to get Morrissey even more? A Republican. I mean, Morrissey is perceived by many to be like the quintessential, been in office too long, in that one party state hack. I mean, many perceive him as just a hack's hack. So it doesn't mean anything, literally. This is how it works all the time. I mean, look who was the U.S. attorney before him. It was Rachel Rollins.
Rachel Rollins, and she's the one who started the case. So,
Right.
mean,
And,
he took it over from her.
Right. And that's my point, which is the people who criticize the federal investigation of Morrissey would have a much stronger argument by focusing their fire at Rachel Rollins, who is corrupt to her core, a terrible person, a terrible U.S. attorney, a terrible state prosecutor, awful, right? I mean, and she's been disbarred, I believe, I think. She had her own
No,
other...
I think she held on. I think she...
I don't know. I don't know. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I'm not sure. I thought I saw it. Maybe I'm not, but
the point is, Levy became acting U.S. attorney and then U.S. attorney, and the business went on. If they've been running an investigation for a year and a half, they don't shut it down just because there's a new president. The president doesn't literally shut down an investigation into alleged corruption in Canton, Massachusetts. No way.
Exactly. Now I want to know. Now I want to know if Rollins has been disbarred, because it's funny. I had her on the show like a week before she got hired for district attorney. It's probably my fault that she... Oh, man. I'm admitting stuff now that I shouldn't talk about.
No,
but,
she's awful.
Yeah. I'm not happy with a lot of stuff that she did.
Mark, why do you think we haven't heard anything from Levy? I mean, this was the whole buildup. They, the whole thing that they knew what went on in that house, and there was all these, this long FBI report, and we kept hearing all these things like, we know what happened. Like, why haven't they jumped on this? Like, what
I don't know what they know. I don't know what evidence they have. I don't know if it's dormant. I don't know if there's a big surprise coming. I mean, it's, federal prosecutors, when they do long-term corruption investigations, usually work in the shadows, and it does take a long time. I mean, you saw that with Birchmore, but each case is also different. And I mean, it's not even fair to call this a case. This was just an investigation, and the only thing you even know is that some time ago they did haul in a bunch of people to come in before a grand jury. Other than that, I don't know what they've done or not done, or whether they will do anything. So, I mean, I don't think people should just assume because some of these people testified in the federal grand jury that means indictments are coming and what's not. They may be, but I don't know. On the other hand, they probably have a lot more material that potentially could be dumped in another TUI. Who knows? I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're at that stage where they feel comfortable doing that. It would all be speculation. I just don't know.
Yeah, I just look at the whole situation. If if you're bringing in a special investigator or you're bringing in another entity to look into something, to me, and no pun intended, it has to have some teeth there to run it.
They're talking about which dog? I'm sorry.
Is that
Winnie.
Lola?
No, that's Winnie. No, that's Winnie.
Winnie?
No,
Winnie, what she want?
I don't know. Barking. There's probably someone outside. Imagine that. The dog barks when there's people outside.
I know, right? Who knows? That
What
never happens.
I know. And she's, not the youngest dog, and she hears things.
Oh, Winnie. I love it. There's a question about, I don't know if anyone wants to answer this. I've always wondered through all of this, why hasn't the vomit inside the underwear or the blood flowing down not been more of a focus?
I don't know. I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, I don't know, gravity and that kind of thing you'd think would become a factor. Winnie has an opinion on all this, obviously. Yeah. I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense for the car hit theory, though, the way all of this was. but I don't know. I would think it's worth probably 2 minutes of focus.
You guys have any comment on it, or I'll move to the next one?
No, move on.
No, I think I like same line. I mean, yeah, it's just really curious why it hasn't been a focus. I don't know. I think that's just been kind of secondary to me. I've really focused on like tail light, dog bite, all those big major things that we keep hearing. And those little minute details, I think sometimes just get pushed aside and don't really get focused on. It's a good question.
Right. It's the fallout of something that already happened, which is the impact, the puncturing of the arms, the cutting of the arms. They're debating it at the subject point, which is how that came about, as opposed to the bleeding. I guess a good argument could be made, though, how much blood would be caused by a taillight injury as opposed to a puncture wound from a dog's teeth or claws or whatnot. Just to the point about the U.S. attorney leaving, for me, I just feel like Mark does. I just feel like whatever's going on in that office will probably carry on forth with continuing to look into the Karen Reed matter as they move on to a different, head there. So just want to get that point in there.
And I think to answer that question too, a little more, I'm just thinking is like, they need experts. Like, that's why we're talking about dog bites. That's why we're talking about the tail light. It's because we have ARCA. We have, Richard Green, the 227 search. So I don't know who the expert would be to talk about blood flowing down. And I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but that's really, I think the defense really needs
crazy science.
Yeah. And here's another question that I don't know the answer to. I don't know if any of you guys do. Is it true that John was missing 3 liters of blood?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I mean, I remember vaguely this concept at trial, but I don't remember the specifics of that.
What time is it?
We're at 7:52.
Yeah, I know Brian's got to go and set up his show in a little bit. Brian, tell us how we can follow you. I know it's LTL Media. I follow you on YouTube, Twitter. Tell us all about it, and make sure people are watching you tonight. Tell us.
Yeah, for sure. You can find me. I'm sure a lot of people in the room know who I am, but if you're not, you can find me over on LTL Media on YouTube. I'm over on Twitter, on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at LTL Media. And you can look me up on Facebook. I'm pretty active in my Facebook group. Just look up LTL Media. Just look for the meme cat, and you'll find it. I'll be there.
And you also have a show coming up on Tuesday. I think Bederow is probably going to want to watch this. You got Juna Perkins coming on, who's running for district attorney, right?
Yeah, she's going to be challenging Michael Morsi. Unfortunately, I think it's like 2 years, but she'll be live in studio. We're going to talk to her about her challenging Michael Morsi. I want to learn about her policies and what she's going to do, in her if she wins, to clean up Norfolk County. I think it's very important that we have someone that goes in there and overhauls this whole system. I mean, obviously, what's Karen Reed, Sandra Birchmore, about what I've been kind of raising a lot of awareness on my channel, Trooper Enrique Delgado Garcia. It's everybody's involved and connected to all these cases. And we don't need to, look here in 2025 and have another case here that has just weird inklings or things that go on in it. It needs to stop. Corruption needs to stop.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here tonight. We'll be checking you out at 8:15. You're coming up tonight. I'm looking forward to watching you getting in the chat. Everyone, please check out Brian LTL. Subscribe if you haven't. LTL Media. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Brian.
Absolutely. Mark, and Mike. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Good night.
Good one.
Have a good night. Have a good rest of your show.
Yep, take care.
And he's got a show coming up. And just about the time we go through our final thoughts, but I just go through a couple more super chats. This is a funny one. I'm not even going to read it out loud. But you guys might get a little chuckle out of it.
Yeah.
We're changing sexual orientations over here, apparently.
Maybe it's funny. I met her recently. She stood on the chair when she took a picture with me, and I posted that on the X page there on Twitter.
I love our supporters. It's so many people we've gotten to know over the time. It's amazing. I mean, you guys have definitely met a bunch of new friends, I'm sure, over time with this, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. You bet. That's for sure.
Couple more I'll bring up. Here's one. They want you to run for president, Bederow.
You should give Scooter his money back. I'm not doing that. Come on.
Refund him.
He's not getting his money back. Yeah. I can't do it on YouTube. If it was a Venmo and he requested, I'd give the money back. But YouTube, you ain't getting your money. It's funny when people ask for their money back on YouTube. It's like, go talk to YouTube. I don't know. Can't help you. So any final thoughts tonight before we kind of wrap it up? Anything that we didn't get to bring up? Anything you want to mention?
Sure. I thought the Arizona State Sun Devils put on a major performance against the Texas Longhorns. That was one of the greatest football games I've ever seen. That was wild. The way they came back, like literally in like 1 minute and 30 seconds of game time, Mark, it was like a complete blowout. All of a sudden, you thought the Sun Devils were going to run the table and take that game. It was incredible.
Wow. The targeting, non-targeting was
right.
disgusting. But unfortunately, ASU historically is the kind of team on a 4th and 13 for the game who not only would give up the touchdown, but inexplicably give up the touchdown where the guy's like 10 yards wide open. Like, how in the hell does that happen? But the program has been down for a long time. There was the whole Herm Edwards fiasco. He really set them back. But the good news is they've got the right coach. He's young. He's alumni. He wants to be there. He's from there. They've got recruiting back, and I never understood how. I mean, the campus is like Disney World. Okay, it's like got the best weather in the country, incredible location, just the best place to spend your college years, and they ought to be able to recruit and just they ought to be like USC was, that same level. And the good news is they're going to get better and they're going to get good again. So, but yeah, that was a hell of a game, but I don't need to watch it again.
Yeah, I was thinking about you the whole game, and I felt bad for you when they were down big, but that wasn't the worst part. It was a tough game. But you know what? At the end of the day, that was a wild game, and it speaks to the recruitment ability of that team going into the future too. It makes a good showing. The recruits, you can show the recruits what you did, and bring in some new guys the next year, and hopefully get some guys through the transfer portal and build your team up. And if Deion Sanders eventually leaves Colorado, a lot of those top flight recruits are going to start to become available and transfer out of Colorado too. So.
Yep, that's true. Yep.
The portal's a new thing. It's interesting about that. Yeah. We had another question I missed earlier. They wanted to ask, didn't Hank show his cards to how he'll cross Dr. Russell? The defense will be covered his points in direct. The defense will cover his points in direct, no?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he obviously turned what could have been a relatively short hearing into 12 hours over 2 days or whatever it was. So, I mean, his cross-examination was however many hours. It was way beyond the scope of Daubert-type cross, and a lot of it did kind of go more to the merits of this and accepting these factual premises. And usually when you cross an expert, you use hypotheticals and all kinds of things. I think you'll see some more of that. But I don't know how they expect to impeach her per se with what he was doing other than through another witness. I don't think it's going to be on the cross. I don't think he's going to poke any holes in her, but they'll have an expert who disagrees, and then you go from there. But again, a battle of the experts, it's not good enough for the DA. They need to win these points overwhelming and eliminate any possibility that the jury might credit, might accept, might at least consider the defense position reasonable. So that's hard because, how many of these witnesses can you just eliminate like that when there are so many different paths to reasonable doubt here?
And what about this one here, where is it possible Hank is calling the experts to the hearing so he can ultimately decide to throw the case out knowing he won't win?
I doubt it. I mean, if that's the case, then they should all be fired. I mean, a woman's life is at stake. This is a murder or something similar trial. Who knows at this point? But I don't think Brennan is literally doing this to throw the case. He's trying to win. I don't know why. Again, I don't question his motives. He's experienced and skilled. What I'm fascinated is I would love to know the rationale for why he believes this is a winner. Again, with that defense lawyer brain. I mean, as a defense, with that kind of brain, you just see so many problems with this case. And, I know they played that interview of him repeatedly if the cops are lying or there's problems with this, these are not real cases. And he is inviting that to just get played again and again, because there's just reasonable doubt all over the place here, as far as I can see.
What about this one, that Hanky got a lot of information for his future cross of Russell?
Sure. But again, she's going to testify that I believe these are dog wounds based upon, my training experience. And I thought the biggest thing that's a problem for the prosecution that, again, might make the jury say, well, that's possible, was that testimony she gave about, the teeth going in and then coming out, and it kind of moves the thread, and like the whole consistency of the holes. If you remember that the first day, because there has to be an entry and an exit kind of thing, how that impacted the whole. That's the kind of thing where I think a jury's going to have a hard time saying, well, that makes sense. And if that's possible, maybe she's right. And I mean, her opinion is stronger than that, obviously. But so he will know about that for cross-examination. But, that's why you have trials. They'll get an expert who will attack her and vice versa, and the jury will decide. But that's the point. The jury will decide. This should not be a thing where they say she shouldn't be allowed to testify because she's not qualified and doesn't have, can't satisfy the Daubert standard, which, she clearly does.
I think
Here's
that
go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, real quickly. I think that the prosecution and Hank Brennan's style is also being picked up on by Alan Jackson and David Dunetti. I noticed that Alan Jackson was taking down some notes during that hearing just the other day, and I think they're trying to get an idea because Hank is having to really tip his cap here as to what kind of attack or approach he may make. And while he may change that going into a trial, there's still certain patterns that attorneys have that can be picked up on by other attorneys. So I think that Alan Jackson might be formulating some ways he might try to counter him in a head-to-head situation in the future. It's just something I kind of noted to myself.
A comment said, I was praying that the doctor would say that the DNA is only important if collected responsibly, and crime scene photos would have been helpful to her, which leads me to a question. Would it be helpful if the defense brought someone in who was like a law enforcement detective, maybe retired, someone who's done a lot of investigations, to kind of answer like questions like this, like, what are the standards for collecting DNA? What are the standards? Do they use solo cups? That type of stuff. Do you think that would be helpful?
Assuming you can argue that should be admissible and relevant and proper, then I do believe someone with a law enforcement background talking about proper I mean, like, you could literally cross-examine these cops on what kind of training do they have. Like when you went to the state police or the Canton police in the early parts, what is the policy on gathering evidence? What is the policy on securing a crime scene? Do you have one? Is there a policy? I don't recall any of that type of stuff coming out. What is the policy when you are recused? What does that mean? Why are you now then taking the car in the Sally Port? Why are you having one of the Albert brothers volunteer this for that? The police one, which one is that? Kevin Albert? They could try to do all of that and really emphasize that they either have no structure, they have no policy, so it's like the Wild West, or they don't follow it, which is, worse, obviously.
Another question. I've been curious, why is Hank Brennan in charge of Morrissey's text and emails? Is that a conflict?
I can't answer that. I got to pass on that for other reasons.
Yeah, you've got your own case.
Fair enough. We understand. Yeah.
There was another question about that too, like that possibly is that the reason they have a special prosecutor? Is that there's such a conflict between Proctor and Lally and all that stuff that they had. That's why they actually picked Brennan, someone from the outside, because Lally may be caught up in something.
And then Lally wouldn't be there. I mean, the scandal here is the DA, by having Lally and the other one, McLaughlin, at the table, is saying that our office does not have a conflict, but we still had to bring in a ringer at taxpayer expense. which goes back to why did the media, when this was all going on, they never asked the right question, which is, if there's no conflict and I pay your salaries to prosecute murder cases or whatever it's going to be, why can't you do that? Why do you have to like take more money from the public trough and hire this guy? That's nothing wrong with Brennan doing it. He has a right to do it. The focus here is on Morrissey. Why is he doing it?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Alley being there is no conflict with that office.
Bingo. Good point. This I don't know. I mean, I think if it was done, it was done by the feds. The question was, a full cell phone tower dump geofencing ever done for 34 Fairview?
I don't know.
No, we don't know.
Olivia, you're in the comments. You want to comment on that one?
Is she there?
Yeah. I don't believe they did. I don't recall hearing that. Yeah.
I don't either. I mean, if it was done, I have to think it was the feds, and we won't know until.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've been missing most of the regular chat, just trying to keep up with the super chats.
Yeah,
it's just
I know, right?
too many of them. It's like
Yeah.
it's really hard. I'm sorry if I don't get all your super chats out. I really thank you guys for being here. It's a tough problem I have here.
Yeah.
Usually you get them done in 2 minutes. Here it's just nonstop when Bederow and Mazza are on. Do you guys, again, I asked earlier, Mazza, you went to Arizona State. Bederow, you have any final comments? Anything you want to talk about? Maybe something non-Karen Reed, even going on in New York? Anything?
Next week, Severance season 2, it starts. So
there you go.
I'm telling you, it is an all-time. If you have not watched it, it is that good. So go to Apple TV and rewatch season 1. I think it's 8 episodes. It's incredible, just brilliant done, brilliant cast. If you like John Turturro, Christopher Walken, unbelievable. You need to watch this show. And next week, season 2, finally.
So there's the one I got. It said, please read my prior chat, you stoner. If you were stoned, you would have actually posted what it was, so I wouldn't have to go through 36 of them. Then look, so you're not getting yours read tonight.
We get a response from Olivia on the geofence. She
What
says
is
the feds definitely did it, but the state opposed turning over anyone's phone records and sabotaged the geofence preservation orders so as to run out the clock so the data would be lost.
There you go. Olivia, thank you so much, Olivia Lambeau.
Yep.
Olivia Nile, she's phenomenal.
Yep. She is. She's good. Great, very educated.
Another super chat came in. What isn't the evidence thrown out for the Lexus when the time wasn't accurate on the warrant?
I wasn't around the first trial when they litigated or didn't. Whether they did or didn't, I don't know. All this stuff, but that's something that would have been addressed way back when. I don't even know about the time issue on the warrant, to tell you the truth. I'm not familiar with that.
If I don't want to put you in a spot, but I got a kind of a question. If they filed, like when they went to search Karen Reed, they had a warrant based on testimony from 2 different people. If one of those people is a known liar, it can't be challenged later on, right? It's already done. Is that?
It can, if they know that it gets really complicated. It's much harder to challenge a warrant by attacking the information that leads to the probable cause, but they have all kinds of, they used to call it Aguiar Spinelli, about the reliability of informants and this and that. And it gets very complicated. It's hard. It's rare to do most people, well, I shouldn't say this out here. I think the cops write the warrants, which does create more risk for trouble. Where I come from in like New York City, every DA's office will actually write the warrants. The lawyers, they'll bring the cops in, the cops will sign it, but the affidavits are prepared by lawyers under the theory they're going to be, airtight and not making mistakes. So it's actually, that's something that Brian can ask when he talks to the candidate about, trying to eliminate mistakes. Maybe have the lawyers do more of the legal work and the cops do more of the police work.
There's a comment there. She's basically asking, should Bev let it go on so long, considering that they're trying to use Marie Russell's statements against her from the past, and they're trying to, set a precedent on what she said. What do you think about this comment and question?
No, I think it was too long. I think a lot of it was irrelevant for the purpose of the hearing. This habit of injecting facts that are highly in dispute and are, again, the DA's opinion, and stating them and arguing with the witness as to whether it's true or not, or why don't you accept that? That's not the purpose of a Daubert hearing. So I thought a lot of it, when we first started this, I thought the hearing in a legal sense was silly.
All right. And I did find Peter's question. A lot of times I don't read the questions because this is an obvious one. It's kind of like, I'll answer it. Can the trial start before the appeal is decided? Absolutely it can. They may never actually decide on the appeal. The Supreme Court doesn't have to even hear it. So
Well, we got to back up.
they've heard it, but they don't have to decide on it even, do they?
We can't start the trial because we don't know what the charges are. So the trial can't happen until the SJC comes back and says, what are you trying? I mean, like, if you do it now, what are the charges at the trial? You don't even know. So no, I mean, look, I don't know when they're going to come back, but the trial is not going to start before the appeals decide. Can't.
Oh, so I'm wrong. It can't start before they hear the appeal, before they decide.
Would she be charged with murder or not? We don't know. No, it's got to be decided in the SJC first.
What if the SJC doesn't decide by the April, whatever date it is? Like,
Then
what happens then?
the SJC tells the lower court, that's great. We don't care. Pound sand. When we're ready, and you'll move your trial date. Do I think they'll do that? I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll try to accommodate, but they're not going to rush a decision on something as important as determining whether Karen Reed's double jeopardy rights were violated because, a trial level judge set a schedule. But, it's still January. So it'll be decided by then.
It'll be decided.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, to see what they say.
No, that'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah. And I guess once they see, I was double wrong too on that. I'm realizing, because once they have the actual hearing, they always have a decision. It's whether or not they actually have a hearing on it. Right.
Yep.
So I was being a little, I was wrong twice here. That's why we have Attorney Bederow.
That's right. That's all right. It happens.
It happens to all of us.
There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of different things. It's tough to, for any one individual, except for Mark Bederow or maybe Olivia, to know all this stuff.
Exactly. That's why we have them.
Right.
It's tough too to ask 51 super chats. I know I've missed some. I'm going to let you guys go, and we're going to just try to get every super chat up and thank all my Venmos. Anything else that we missed or discussed tonight? What do you think?
Turtle Boy is back in court tomorrow morning, I think 9 a.m. Ongoing there. I'm not sure what the subject matter is tomorrow exactly, but that is going on tomorrow in Dedham.
That is true.
Yep. Yeah.
And you're gonna be there on Zoom, is that right, Attorney Bederow?
Zooming tomorrow. I've got some other business to do in New York. If other things were happening, I would be there. There is not going to be an evidentiary hearing related to the disqualification motion tomorrow, just so people are aware of that.
Excellent.
I will be.
You heard it here first, right from Attorney Bederow. Thank you so much. We'll be watching tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Hopefully it's going to be streamed everywhere.
Watching like this, like a bubble in the ground.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Celtics hoodie? Celtics shirt?
No, not tomorrow. No, tomorrow will be my best half suit I can come up with.
Right, exactly. And sweatpants and no shoes.
So I got another question for you. Are you coming back for any more Celtics games? Is that, or are you done for the season?
No. We've got a few earmarked, and depending on when I'm going to be there, we're just warming up.
You're warming up.
We got the playoffs, and the NBA Finals ahead. We got to repeat this year.
You get the luckiest kids around. They get to go to everything.
Yeah, no, they had a good time, but I need a break too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys. It was great to be back together. So much appreciate it. I'll be hitting up both of you because I'm planning on ordering some awards for you.
Thank you.
Our best guest of 2024. We really appreciate it here on the Young Jerks. Our moderators love you as well. They like our whole crew. So thank you so much.
Order up some wings and tangerine beef.
Yeah,
there you go.
We'll have to meet at Kowloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do an award ceremony there. That would be cool.
All right, that'd work. I'm up to that. That'd be great.
That always works. That I'll come in for. Believe me.
Yeah,
Awesome.
right.
I love it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Good times. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for
Okay.
being here, and we'll catch up, I'm sure, very soon.
Yep. Take care.
Have a
Okay.
good night.
Have a good one. Free Karen Reed. Free Turtle
Free
Boy.
Karen Reed. That was great. Love having them on. So good. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna try to get all your super chats up. All right. I'm sorry. I try. It's hard. I mean, I don't think people understand. I know some people get mad. I try. Hey, not every show throws up super chats either. So I try to put everyone up. I want to thank Please Pass the Pepper. I want to thank our moderators, Jen, MJ, Stephanie, Sarah, Scott McGinnis. We have such a good team here. I want to thank them so much. I want to thank Brian LTL. Check him out tonight, 8:15 p.m. If you haven't, please subscribe, follow him. Same thing with Mazza Media. He's on YouTube and Twitter. Please subscribe to him. And Mark Bederow Law. He's on Twitter as well. If you're not already following him, I'm sure 99% of you are already following him on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, that is. Everybody's following him there. I want to thank Marie, Tanya, Britt Happens. Check out her show. She's got a good show too. She's brand new. I've been watching her show. I like Britt. She does a good job. Check her out. Thank you so much for all the super chats tonight. I'm just flashing them up there. I'm going to check my Venmo too, because I did see some Venmos come in. Thank you, Barbara. She sent Barbara M sent a gift, $10 on Venmo. Thank you so much. David B as in boy, sent $10 as well. Says, great show. Christine W also sent $10. She said grifting with a little laughter. Thank you so much, Christine. We are grifting tonight. There's a lot of grifting going on. I also want to thank Sarah, who about a week ago, one of our mods also sent me $20. I don't know if I ever thanked her for that. She said, Happy New Year. Thank you for everything you do. Looking forward to an amazing content in 2025. Thank you so much, Sarah. You came, started out as a fan. Now you're one of our moderators. We're very happy to have you on board. And now I'm just going to take a quick look at the Cash App. And I do see something here. Okay, Babs sent $10. She says, great shows. Thanks for all you do. Thank you so much, Babs. That was actually yesterday. I must have missed that for yesterday's show we did. Also, on Tuesday, Rogue Townie sent $20 on Cash App as well. Not sure if I thanked them. Thank you so much, the Rogue Townie. And Laura R., she also sent some money, $5 a little while back. I want to thank her as well. Thank you so much for the super chats and the Venmos and the Cash Apps and all, especially, you know what? The best is the best question, the good questions you guys send. Really good questions tonight. You want to, how I wish I could read the thoughts Mark Bederow can't say, right? It's, I was thinking about that tonight as we're discussing, what I would give to hear the discussions of the Karen Reed defense team in the background. Can you imagine like the strategy sessions they have, and just like on the last trial deciding on who actually they were going to put on the stand and doing that shorter defense? I would have loved to have been the fly on the wall for those discussions. And Bederow is great because, Mazza and myself definitely do get some behind the scenes stuff with Bederow at times. He'll let us know some stuff maybe he won't quite say on the show. So it is fun. I'm very thankful for Bederow and Mazza. Another super chat came in from Edward. He said Proctor screwed up the geofencing. There was a court order. Rewatch the pretrial stuff, guys. A lot of this is answered in the pretrial motions. It's hard to remember it all. It was so long ago, too. That's the thing, too. I think a lot of us are going to start spending time reviewing, even on the shows. Like, we just started playing some of the video from the last trial recently, and you just remember things. You're like, holy shit, like, wow. And it just occurred to me, like, that jury was really not good the last time. I can't believe they didn't find her not guilty. There's another question. Does anyone feel like Bev is acting even worse this time? Maybe because she knows we know, all in the same joke, as it were. Who knows? I mean, I don't feel like she's acted worse. I think she was pretty bad last time. I mean, for me, the point when she basically got angry with Karen Reed, you know, what's so funny? I don't think anything can top that. We also got Decline. Says, thank the 3Ms. All I want to do is thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Decline. I really appreciate that. It's funny, all these questions come in right after we get off. Her Story Inc. Says, why isn't the evidence thrown out for the Lexus when the time wasn't accurate on the warrant? Mark Bederow deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. That's a good question. I don't know. Actually, I think we kind of did ask that. Yeah, we did. Please, yeah, we got that one too. Please read my prior chat, you stoner. The abuse I take for $1.99. I'll probably get about 25 cents from this guy when it's all said and done, from taxes and YouTube fee. That'd be interesting if Hank does a shorter trial. It just doesn't feel like it. It feels like he might have a longer trial than even Lally. We'll see. We'll see. We thought he was going to streamline it, but look what he's already doing. Oh, this is a question I should have asked. I was thinking this the other day. I don't think there's any chance that could happen. I don't think he would do it. I think it would be kind of a betrayal to the federal office, too. But why? Imagine, that would be wild. Well, what about any of the feds? That's, you know what? I should have asked Bederow that question tonight. I mean, what about calling the FBI agents? I mean, I'm sure they would say no. I mean, I'm sure they would fight it, but what about that? Thank you, James. Thank you, Her Storyline. Thank you, Boston Brandy. Thank you, Bex. Thank you, Sheila. Glamour Suze, thank you so much. Thank you, Texas. Texas Prime. Just became a YouTube member tonight. Thank you so much. If you haven't liked and subscribed to us, AJ's Red Eye, thank you. Jen Lay, thank you. Thank you, Scooter. The Sand Fan. I think I got them all up. I still got 2,600 people watching me go through super chats. This is wild. Mimi, thank you. OnlyFan, thank you. And Wanda D, thank you. Kristen, thank you. Catherine. Britt K, thank you. I see you, thank you. So many of these. Texas Prime again, thank you. A lot of Texas Prime. Thank you so much. Miss Littlebones, thank you. Masters of Criminology, thank you. Tanya French, thank you. Amazing. Mary, thank you. Sarah, one of our moderators. Sarah and Shock and Her, we love you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Peter, for calling me a stoner tonight. Thank you, Rainey. And actually, thank you, Peter, for the question. I gave you a little shit. It was actually a good question. My response kind of sucked. Thank you, Bo. Thank God we had Bederow for that one. Thank you, Siobhan. And Terry and the Traveler. It's crazy. Thank you, Please Pass the Pepper. Furious. Alba Gamer 82, thank you. Thank you, Nellie Finn. And Romy, thank you. You're always here. You ask great questions. I think I already said rainy. Like the weather. Thank you so much. Thank you, John Barron. We asked your question, definitely. Thank you, LS. Thank you, Amy's Positive Pathways. I love that. Positive. I think that's all of them. Whew. All right, I'm going to check the regular chat now. How did we do? Did we do all right tonight? Whoever's still watching in the chat? Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah, that was interesting. Baby fishes. He says, while Bederow is astute to note that more men like Karen than women. It's interesting because I'm not sure about that, but I think he's got a point, and I think he definitely knows more about this than me. I think he makes a good point. And the reason why I say I'm not so sure about that is just due to the fact that how many people follow us are women. Like, you see when we open the phone lines, 9 out of 10 are women calling us. Well, I think there's a lot of women that do support Karen Reed, but at the same time, percentage-wise, it might be more likely that some of those women could turn on her. Women seem to be more, it's often, I find, women are more critical of other women than men. So who knows? I'm not sure about that. It was a great, I love Bederow because it tells you, get rid of the kooks. Like that just hits me because it's so true. Like, that's what she doesn't want, is any kooks on the jury. Bederow is very astute. He is so good at this. It's like he's got decades of experience at it, right? Yeah, the Crash Daddies, I can't wait to see them part 2. I hope that they bring even more this time. Don't be shy. Yeah. Yeah, women can be the worst to other women. It's true. And I think that was really what Bederow was probably meaning on that. Even though Karen Reed has a lot of women supporters. But that's not who's on the jury. It's not your supporters. It's just the average population. And I think he's got a very good point. And that's true, too. Like, look at a lot of the trolls. A lot of the most hateful trolls are women against Karen Reed, too. So there's something about that woman thing. Yeah, I think, obviously, Bederow knows what he's talking about. That was an interesting answer. Yeah, tonight was great. I really enjoyed that. Anytime we're together, it's always a good time. It was great to get Brian from LTL on, too. He asked some good questions. He's good. A+ tonight. You enjoyed it? Thank you so much. I wish we had a little more time. I would have opened up the phone lines. I know people wanted to ask some questions tonight. I'm just looking at the chat right now because I was so concentrated on the super chat, just trying to get them all up there and ask. I'm just reading the chat now. I love who's here. Thank you, Miss Jessica NV. I like you a lot. She's on Twitter. I follow her. I love that Olivia Nile was here to ask questions. She's amazing. I want to thank MJ again. MJ is the best. I hope if Ari's watching, if she's still up, I hope she's feeling better. I want to say hi to Ari. Ari. Did I say right? Ari? Ari. I think that's it. Ari. I got your name right. Hi, Ari. Yeah, imagine if Morrissey testified. That would be the best. You came you stayed you came from Bederow. They stayed for the super chat readings. That's so funny. Glenn Lake. I love you, Glenn. Glenn's another one in our chat. Everybody loves Glenn. Where are my pearls? My pearls are upstairs. I gotta get them. I only wear them on special occasions. I know this is kind of special, but it's got to be. We do a lot of 3M shows. I gotta really be. There's nothing to clutch about tonight. If I see Nurse Kim anywhere, if I'm going out to a dinner with Nurse Kim and Bederow and all them, I'm wearing those pearls. See what I mean? I love our chat. Olivia. Oh my God, Olivia. We're gonna have to do some They're gonna have to get a copper. The Alan Jackson's gonna be over there, like pulling out boards. You're gonna have to make that box a little bigger. I think we'll leave it on that. Everyone's laughing at the chat on Olivia's comment. Vaseline. Oh man, that's why they call him Meatball, right? All right, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much. Have a great night. I'm not sure when we'll be back. We'll be doing a show, maybe. I don't know. Could be tomorrow afternoon. Could be Saturday or Sunday. I definitely want to go over that lawsuit stuff. The Aiden Cardi lawsuit that he filed against Lindsay Gattani. So we'll definitely do a show on that upcoming. Oh yeah, Wednesday night. This upcoming Wednesday night, I have the Massachusetts State Auditor on the show, Diana DiZoglio. We're going to be talking about her audit of the legislature and how they're all pushing back on her and that audit of the state legislature that was voted in by ballot initiative, something that she supported and campaigned for, and it happened, and now the State House doesn't want it to happen. We're also going to talk about the MPTC audit that she did, and that's basically the municipal police training and how fraudulent that organization is. So I'm looking forward to that. Wednesday night with Mass State Auditor Diana DiZoglio. She's going to be live on the show. I think it's 6 p.m. I'll have to check on that. Could be 7, but I think it's 6 p.m. on Wednesday night. I'm looking forward to that. Hope you are all here. That's going to be a big show for us. And we'll see what else. You know me, I'm going to be working on a lot of guests now. I've got some good guests I want to get on the show. I'm going to try to get Jessica Machado back on the show as well. And we got a lot planned. You wait and see. Yeah, I'll catch you jerks later. Thank you so much, Danny. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next time. Yeah, you know what? I don't know how to redirect. Everyone talks about that. What I'll do right now, everyone's probably looking for the LTL Media link. Let's look it up right now, and we'll put it in the chat. Before I go, I wanna. Here it is, because that's where we're all going next. If you want to go watch LTL, I'm gonna throw it in the chat right now. You got the link. You can jump over there and watch LTL Media right now. And we'll all be over there in the chat. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next time.